Hey guys, welcome to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. There is so much to talk about today. You know, there's this incoming ice storm that we are all trying to hunker down, figure out how we're going to make it through. And I do want to let you know that because you're able to stream with us live here on Fox 5 News Live, you will always know the biggest news of the day. You'll always know the biggest updates as we get them from our officials, whether you live here in the city of Atlanta, outside of the perimeter, or maybe you're joining us from another state or country altogether. We have everything that's going on right here in Georgia. I do want to let you know you are not going to be alone today. Even if the power goes out, you'll be able to access us from the palm of your phone. So let's talk about what's happening across the state. Of course, we have a live picture out at the airport where later on we'll be talking to one of our reporters about how they're dealing with this impending storm and what's that going to mean for passengers. But let's get right out to our meteorologist, Alex Forbes. Alex, you have been tackling this head on really since last week.
Yeah.
Where are we at today?
So, Judea, the ice storm warning that was issued yesterday for North Georgia and for Metro Atlanta is still in place and will kick in at 1 this afternoon and then go through 10 a.m. Monday morning. The change is this winter weather advisory down to the south. That's new. It was an upgrade from the winter storm watch for ice accumulations there up to about 1/10 of an inch. Now, if you are in this ice storm warning, which includes Atlanta, the northern suburbs, Cobb, Cherokee, Forsyth, Hall, Gwinnett, DeKalb, Douglas, Paulding counties, I need you to prepare to potentially lose power for maybe up to several days. We are going to be looking at widespread impacts from this with 1/4 all the way up to 1 inch of ice in that darker shade of purple. Now, the good news is you still have today to prepare, but the advice is by the time we get to 5 o'clock this evening, you need to be where you anticipate spending the next several days, because that's when the wintry weather is going to begin to really roll in across Metro Atlanta and northern Georgia. Let's check out where things stand right now. This is Fox 5 Live Viper. We've been talking about it this morning on Good Day Atlanta. We have already seen some frozen precipitation up across parts of northwest Georgia. We've seen some sleet, even a couple of snowflakes. Saw a report out of White County with the snowflakes mixed in, the sleet over in Calhoun. That is going to continue to be possible up there for the next several hours. Here in Atlanta, we are in the mid-40s, but that number is going to begin to drop as we go through the day, and that is all going to be ahead of what's moving in from the west. And it's that big winter storm there. All the snow and freezing rain that you see, all of that is sliding towards northern Georgia. Now, what's in northwest Georgia is not coming down into the metro area. That's going to continue to press up towards the north. Our event comes later on this evening. So, what does an ice storm consist of? Well, it can be a range of impacts, but the range between minor and major impacts is really not all that big. Less than 1/4 of an inch, that's where it's more of a nuisance. The minor power outages, the light ice on the trees, and the windshields maybe being coated with a glaze of ice. Once you get over 1/4 of an inch, that's where you get into the disruptive stage. That's where you run into power outages and some tree damage. But once you're over 1/2 inch, which we are forecasting many locations in Metro Atlanta and in northeast Georgia to be in, that's where you run into widespread power outages. That's when the trees come down, particularly our pine trees here in Georgia, and that's when the roads simply become impassable. I don't care how big your truck is. 1/2 inch of ice you are not getting through. That's just how it goes. If it was snow, it would be a different story. If you're watching from Michigan going, these Southerners are crazy. This is ice. This is not snow. It's not going to work. All right? So here we go into the evening hours tonight. I said 5 p.m. Where you need to be to allow just a little bit of wiggle room in the forecast. I really expect after 6 o'clock for the freezing rain potential to pick up into the Metro Atlanta area, and that is going to stay with us through the overnight hours. Look at these rain chances, 90, 80, 70% for several hours. Now, to be completely honest with you, these numbers here are somewhat conservative. I think we could see 20s. I don't think it's a slam dunk, but I think we could see 20s, which would make this even more of a threat to us here in northern Georgia. So let's take a look at this on one of our high resolution models here. So you might remember the past couple of days we had been using the GFS and the European models. Those are global models that model literally the entire globe, and they are not at as high of a resolution as this Barron 3K model. When you get at a higher resolution in the modeling, that's when you have a greater degree of confidence in what's going to happen. In my experience, being here in North Georgia and forecasting with this particular model, it handles what you call cold air damming, which is the setup that we're going to have, it handles that very well in terms of how deep is the cold air going to be, how far to the west does it get, and what impacts do we see from it. So let's map it out now. Here we are. This is going to be later on this evening, right? So this is why I'm saying 5 p.m. because by 6 o'clock you've got rain on the northwest side of the metro. Looking at some freezing precipitation already starting in parts of northern Georgia, and then look at how that expands by the time we get towards 8 p.m. and on into the overnight hours. Steady freezing rain for most of us in north and central Georgia. Also notice how far south that this model is depicting the freezing rain, right? Troup and Meriwether counties are not in the winter weather advisory, at least not yet, but I think looking at this that they very well could be added before all is said and done. Here we are through the overnight hours, the freezing rain continuing, and then by the time we get towards tomorrow morning, we will catch a break. But into the afternoon, another wave of rain begins to roll in, and notice you're getting the pinks again in and around the metro area, and particularly north and east. If you're out in western Georgia, you're seeing these greens and these yellows, you're thinking good news, it's going to be just solid rain. I would agree, but I would also remind you that just because it's liquid rain is falling is not going to melt the ice quickly. Think about how long an ice cube stays intact in a 38-degree glass of water, right? You're not going to just wash everything away and have it all be done. In fact, I think you're actually going to end up doing the opposite in northwest Georgia. What's going to happen is this liquid rain is going to fall on the frozen ground, not exactly evaporate because the sun's not going to be out to evaporate. It might melt the ice a little bit, but by the time we get to Sunday evening and the rain's moving out, these temperatures are right back below freezing, and whatever's on the ground will freeze again overnight Sunday into Monday. That's why we have a number of school closures already. So here is the forecast now, and I'm not showing any more models because here's what we've done. I have looked at more models than I think I've ever looked at in a day before this morning, and I came up with this forecast. So this considers everything, and this also considers my experience working with the cold air damming setup. So if you're looking at this and saying, okay, you know, that's not what this says, this isn't what that says, I know. This is what I'm saying, and I have a high degree of confidence in this, okay? So this lighter shade or brighter shade of pink here, that's where you're less than 1/4 of an inch. You're still going to experience an ice storm, but it's not going to be at a significant level. You're going to be looking at a glazed vise on the roads. I still wouldn't be out driving around, but it's something that is still going to impact you here across the area. Once you get into this deeper shade of purple, this 1/4 to 1/2 inch, notice I've got the word destructive right here, and that is done with purpose. Once you're above 1/4 of an inch, as we saw, that's where you start running into the power outages, and they can be widespread with even just 1/4 of an inch. That's where you start running into impassable roads. And once you get up to 1/2 inch, that is a bad ice storm. And that is going to include Rabun, Towns, Union, Fannin, Dawson, Lumpkin, White, Habersham, Hall, Banks, Stevens, Franklin, Northern Gwinnett, Forsyth, probably parts of eastern Cherokee, parts of Pickens counties. You are looking at a lot of ice and likely power outages. Down here on the south side and in around the Athens area, down towards Oconee County, Madison and Oglethorpe counties, Greene County, how about Morgan, Newton, Rockdale, Walton, parts of Barrow County over towards Fulton and into Cobb. This is still a significant and potentially destructive ice storm, really beginning after 5 o'clock tonight and lasting through Sunday night. So that's the forecast the way I see it right now. Here's the timing. We've had a little bit of frozen precip in northwest Georgia this morning. That was the teaser, the main event to come later on this evening. If you're in metro Atlanta, again, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock. That's your timing. The frozen precip gets started overnight, and even if we see that change over to rain after the fact, that's still going to add just that layer of liquid on top. That will likely freeze by the time we get into the overnight hours. Something similar for northwest Georgia. Notice northeast Georgia, we don't take out of the ice at all. It's just straight solid ice all the way through. The South Metro could see that change over to rain before all is said and done as well. So here is your Fox 5 Storm Team forecast. Obviously, Fox 5 Storm Alert days today and tomorrow, but look at these temperatures after the fact. Highs only in the mid-30s for Monday and Tuesday. In fact, only 2 degrees above freezing on Monday. You factor in those gusty winds, 20 to 35 miles an hour. It is entirely possible, Judea, that you make it all the way through the ice falling and accumulating, and you still have your power, but then a wind gust on Monday takes out a tree that has ice on it and you lose power. I want everybody to be prepared to potentially not have electricity for several days with overnight low temperatures in the mid-20s and teens. In fact, Tuesday morning in Metro Atlanta, I'm expecting wind chills in the single digits, and you need to be prepared for that if you don't have electricity. So that's the way things stand now here in the Fox 5 Storm Center. Of course, we're going to be updating this through the day, streaming here on Fox Local and at various times on TV.
Alex, again, incredible job just breaking this down for us, and I'm really happy you were able to go area by area, because there are certain people who are watching who are like, well, it looks fine in my part of town, or right now it's in the 40s, so I don't understand what the big deal is. It's that ice, and I'm really happy that you were able to hit it home for us. You guys, oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let you go.
I want to say one more thing, just because I see it floating around there on the internet. There was this idea a couple days ago that the storm was quote unquote going north. It's not going north, and it was never going north. Then yesterday, it was going east. It is not going east. Metro Atlanta will be impacted by a significant ice storm, and I'm very confident in it.
I appreciate that, and just letting you guys know while you're out there watching with us, remember, you can also be a part of this conversation. So if you have questions for me, one of our reporters, or even Alex, our meteorologist, the best way to do it is to hit us up in one of our chat boxes. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, we're really everywhere. Alex, thank you so much. We'll be checking in with you in about 30 minutes or so. Now, I did tell you that a lot of people are keeping up to date with what's going on at the airport as well, because again, ice is our big concern, but it could also be rain. It could also be a little mix of sleet, some snow. Let's get out to our photojournalist, Eli Jordan. Eli, you have been at the airport all morning long. What has it been like there?
Hey, Judea. Yeah, it's been a fairly decent pace of people coming and going and stuff. It's not too crazy or busy, and not too many cancellations going on. At the last check with FlightAware, there's 40 delays and 244 cancellations. That's system-wide across the country. But you can see that the cancellations are coming from the west, like Dallas, Fort Worth, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and then there's even a couple for Arkansas and Memphis. But a few years ago, Atlanta Airport got caught with some bad weather and a bunch of delays, and a lot of people were stuck here, didn't have anywhere to go, and so they decided to invest and to remedy that in the event of another snowstorm or ice storm. And Assistant General Manager of the airport, Christopher Jackman, explains.
We've added some new equipment this year, so we can clear the airfield at a higher rate of speed and return it back to the airlines for their operations a lot sooner than we were able to in the past.
And the main priority is protecting the airfield and maintaining consistency and continuity, and informing the travelers, about what's happening. But they say check your airline before you make any determination. They're going to keep the airport open for the airlines, but check your airline to make sure your airlines are able to get here or be able to get out. But also too, I ran into some Georgia State University travelers who are going to Utah, and they're excited to travel. But I asked them about the weather to see what they had to say about it. Were you guys concerned about the weather, and why?
Well, I was a little nervous at first, but I kept checking the app, and it kept saying that it only get really bad after like 1, I think, and we take off at 10. Yeah. So I think we'll be okay.
I think it will be fine. I don't know. I feel like sometimes Atlanta overreacts just a little bit, but hopefully everything's okay. I think it'll be fine.
Ever since Snowmageddon, we're all like paranoid.
Yeah, exactly. Just constant paranoia anytime the weather dips.
So were you guys like earlier in the week kind of looking at the weather and kind of concerned? Because you guys have a big trip. Tell me about your trip real quick.
Yeah, we're going to Sundance in Utah, so we're going to where there will be like real snow, not ice snow, so that'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. A lot of good movies too.
A lot of good movies. Very excited. We got like 15 movies for watching.
Great lineup.
But I think building up to the week, I work at a grocery store, so I like every day is just people clearing out the shelves. So at first I was a little bit nervous, but then I think it got like, that's why I say I think people are overreacting a little bit, just because I see like the fear in people's faces when they're getting groceries and stuff, and I'm like, it probably won't be that bad. But I don't know, it's wishy-washy, because I feel like maybe there's a chance it might, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, if it is icy, I think Atlanta will shut down, but I don't really think it's going to get that icy.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. And, Atlanta has shut down before, but we know that the governor has gotten out there and got the brine trucks on the interstates and hopefully avoid what we've seen in the past. But the airport is ready. They've made investments not too long ago to avoid any kind of shutdown here at the airport. But we'll see, as they said. But we will not shut down at Fox 5. We got it covered all the way across the board and across the state. And so just keep it tuned in here, and we'll update you with all the good information that you need to know. Judea?
Eli, thank you so much. And those guys were funny. I have to say, before I moved here to Atlanta, Georgia, I had the same kind of mindset coming from a place like New York, like, oh, this is real snow versus what they're dealing with out there. But we really had to, we underestimate the power of ice. I'll say it like that. How dangerous it can be on our roads.
Treacherous.
On our roads, it can bring down the power lines. Go ahead, Eli.
Many years ago, I was in an ice storm that we had about 7 inches of ice, sleet, and then ice, and then this is when I was in 5th grade. But a friend of ours, classmate, went sledding down a hill on that ice. He could not stop, and he ended up hitting a big old pole and broke his femur in 2 places. And that's the largest bone in your body. So that's another thing. And there were like people sliding up underneath vehicles and running in, their legs right into the exhaust pipe. So that's another thing. If going out and trying to, have fun in this can be dangerous too, because you cannot stop your sled on ice. In snow, you can get some traction and go sideways and come to a skidding stop, but in snow and ice, you cannot do that. And I know personally friends that have really, really injured themselves just because they could not stop. And so hopefully it won't get that bad here, but as those guys said, we'll see.
We will see. Eli, we actually have some eyes out on a couple of other parts of Georgia, so I'm going to head out and check in with a couple of our other reporters, starting with our Kim Loeffler. Kim has been live from Calhoun all morning long. I wanted to check out how it's been going for her as well. Kim, can you hear me?
Hey, Judea, yeah, I can hear you. We are here at the GDOT facility in Calhoun, and it's been a very busy morning here as crews have actually been out treating the roadways since 7 p.m. last night. I'll step out of the way and give you a look at some of what's going on right here. You can see the brine tanks in the blue there behind us. We're told that this area here in northwest Georgia had 110,000 gallons of brine already on hand. You can see that little gray machine there. You can kind of see some water coming down. That's actually how they make more brine, pouring the sand in there and then mixing it with that water. And they've been making more brine throughout the morning, and they wanted to do so just to make sure they have enough to treat all of the roadways. We have started to see a little bit of precipitation. You can probably see some of the water kind of piling up on the road here at the facility. It's just been a little bit of light rain and some sleet as well, but crews are already heading back out this morning, making sure that all the roadways are still good to go, and it's really going to be all hands on deck. Now take a listen to one of the GDOT spokespeople that we spoke with a little bit earlier this morning about how they're preparing for this storm.
Our crews are going to be out there the entire time, just constantly watching the roads, seeing what's happening, if there's areas that need to be treated again, if they need to be plowed or anything else. We're ready really for every contingency. One thing that's a little bit different this time is we're hearing about the amount of wind gusts that are going to be coming through. So all of our crews have chainsaws. We always think of what's going to happen to the roads, the ice and the snow and things like that. But the truth is, with this type of wind that's coming through and the ice, we can see a lot of downed trees, so our crews are also ready to handle that contingency as well.
Yeah, and they say if you do see any downed trees to call 911, and then operators will get in touch with the GDOT crews. But they're also going to be out patrolling as well and removing any downed trees that they do come across. But again, this is an all hands on deck operation here that's going to be continuing throughout the duration of the storm. And we've been saying this really for the last few days, and this is something that GDOT officials have really been trying to get this message out there for everyone to stay off of the roads starting later on today throughout the duration of the storm, because as we've been telling you so far in this stream, you really cannot underestimate the power of ice and really how dangerous even just a really small amount can be on the roadways. But the GDOT crews are ready to go, and they have already been out treating the roads, and it's certainly going to be a long couple days ahead here, and we will keep you updated with the latest from Northwest Georgia. Judea.
Kim, thank you so much. I want to head out a little closer east, see if we can get in touch with our Mark Teichner, who's been covering how parts of North Georgia are also bracing for this ice storm. He joins us live now. Mark, welcome to Fox 5 News Live. How has it been going out in your area? You're in Brazelton, right?
Yeah, we're here in Brazelton, Georgia, which is obviously so far not bad at all because the storm hasn't really hit us yet. We have seen one brine truck. He came through early this morning, went in both directions here on Highway 53, which is kind of the connector that takes you all the way from I-85 into Winder. But since then, we actually haven't seen another brine truck. Of course, this isn't the main roads. They're going to be hitting the interstates first. We can tell you that Brazelton City Hall has already taken some steps. They tell us that they are going to close down. Obviously, they're closed for the weekend, but they're not going to reopen until noon at the earliest on Monday because of this ice storm. And the county officials have said that they are instituting a local emergency and that they are going to work closely with their counterparts from the state to coordinate any response should the ice come this way and end up being significant. As far as the timing is concerned, not likely going to take place until later on, certainly into the late afternoon, early evening hours, where we should start seeing things deteriorate. And because of that, people still have a chance to make some last-minute preparations. Of course, the good news about this storm is we've known about it for days, so a lot of people have been out shopping and doing their stocking up and doing all the prep stuff they needed to well in advance. But there are some people who maybe still might sign that there are a couple things that they want to pick up or that they haven't taken care of. Just yesterday, we found a guy up in Cornelia at a Lowe's. He was actually buying a new, larger generator for his house. And earlier in the week, we talked to a bunch of people at some Walmarts who said that they were stocking up, making sure they had all of the items needed to last them for a couple of days.
I'm pretty concerned. Well, I got about 15 gallons of gas, and my truck gassed up, four-wheeler gassed up. Best I can do. I've got another family coming in there with me, and they're going to need heat, electric heaters, and all that.
We also, like we said, did talk with some folks at this Walmart, and they said that they were picking up all the nutritional items that they might need. And speaking of some of the things that you should be picking up if you haven't done so, let's take a look. You want to have non-perishable food items as well as some drinking water if, God forbid, your pipes do freeze. You want to also make sure that you have filled all of your scripts, all the prescriptions, so you don't run out. You're going to need a flashlight and fresh batteries in that flashlight, an emergency kit in case something goes wrong so you can patch yourself up. And then one last thing we want to also talk about is put some gas in your car. And the reason for that is if the power goes out and your house gets really bitterly cold inside, well, then you could go out into the car and at least warm up for a little bit. Just a reminder, though, if that car is inside a garage, you do not want to do that. Reporting live from Brazelton, I'm Mark Teichner, Fox 5 News.
Mark, thank you so much for giving us that insight. I think it's really interesting that you're letting us know that we do still have a little bit of time left out there in order to get those last-minute items. Actually, if we can come back to me in studio, one of the things that I noticed, I did some of my shopping 2 days ago. I was ahead of the curve. I was out at Publix. There was no line. The prices were pretty good. We had a couple of different discounts. I got a lot of buy one, get ones. It's my favorite way to shop. But then I had a friend who also went out to Kroger. She did one of those, you know, when you can order your groceries ahead. She was hoping that somebody would be able to help her bring them out to the car. She says her order was supposed to be ready by 9:30 a.m. yesterday. She was out at the store at 5 o'clock. They still didn't have her order ready for her, and they also wouldn't let her come into the store and shop for herself since she had already put that order in. So I'm seeing that it's different depending on where you are and where you go. But again, you do still have just a little bit of time to go out and get anything that you still might need in order to make it through the week. As you have heard our meteorologist say, we're in for the long haul, especially with this ice. You better be safe than sorry. So there are a couple of other headlines that I want to run through for you guys that they don't have anything to do with weather. Still some things that you should know. For starting out, this shooting out in Lawrenceville. Give me one second to fix that for you guys. We heard about this incident. It's a deadly shooting in which 4 people lost their lives. Now, we do know the identities of both the suspect and the victims involved. So 4 adults were killed in what police have described as a domestic-related shooting out there in Lawrenceville. 3 children survived this shooting by hiding in a closet, and 1 child successfully called 911 to alert authorities. That's how anyone even got wind that something was going on in this home. Now, the male suspect was caught by K-9 units in a nearby wooded area. It has been placed into custody. But again, this horrific domestic-related shooting that we are getting some more information about has been pretty much anything anybody can talk about since Friday morning. Again, investigators say that 3 children were inside of the home when this happened. They hid inside a closet. 1 of them were brave enough to call for help, and that's how somebody was able to get out to that home on Brook Ivy Court. This all coming out at around 2:30 a.m. Just yesterday. When officers arrived, they unfortunately discovered the bodies of 4 adults inside that house, all of whom sustained some gunshot wounds. Police were able to quickly confirm that this incident was domestic in nature. And while not all of the victims' identities have been released, because as I mentioned, some of the people involved were children, investigators did say that there had been prior calls for service at that house. So now we do know the suspect has been identified as 51-year-old Vijay Kumar of Atlanta. He's been charged with 4 counts of aggravated assault, 4 counts of felony murder, 4 counts of malice murder, and 1 count of cruelty to children in the 1st degree. He's also facing 2 counts of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. Now, some of the victims that I can give you the identity names of. We have Kumar's wife, Mimu Dogra. She was 43 years old from the city of Atlanta. Gaurav Kumar, 33 years old. Neeti Chander, 37 years old. And Harish Chander, 38. All of those people were from Lawrenceville. Just a horrific incident that we are learning more information about. I wish that family, the people who are still there to mourn their loved ones, I just wish them little peace during this really tough time. And I'm thinking about those children as well and how they're going to have to find a way to cope with this and eventually be able to move on with their lives. Another story that we're getting some wind of, a 2-year-old girl who remains in ICE custody. A judge has now ordered that a toddler from Ecuador has to be released from ICE custody. This judge put that out there on Friday night, though. As far as we know, here on Saturday morning, this little girl, this toddler, is still under their detainment. She was detained alongside her father during a traffic stop on Thursday. That arrest comes during an ICE operation in the Twin Cities, so Minneapolis, Minnesota. Again, we know that this little girl that you see there on your screen, she's 2 years old. She's from Ecuador. She was taken in ICE custody while driving along with her father during a Minneapolis traffic stop on Thursday. We know that attorneys have filed an emergency habeas for the release of this toddler and her father. They're trying to cite asylum claims and say that this was a warrantless arrest. And I quote, "Respondents have taken a 2-year-old into custody, an escalation of violence that is unspeakable, cruel, and without any legal basis or justification." That's what some of those court filings say there. We also know a 5-year-old was detained by ICE in Columbia Heights. We'll go into that a little deeper later on in this hour, but I do want to let you know that the judge that ordered that child to be released by 9:30 p.m. Friday spoke to attorneys, and the attorney had been given the parental authority in order to pick her up from the detention center and return her to her mother if that were to happen. One more headline I want to run through with you guys, and then we have to take a quick step back. Thousands of people are rallying for anti-ICE protests in sub-zero temperatures. So we were just talking to you about Minneapolis. This video comes from Minnesota. You can see some of those anti-ICE signs out there. These protests are part of a broader movement, not only against President Donald Trump and his administration, but the way ICE has been handling some of their arrests and how they're going into different cities and conducting themselves. We also know that a lot of people are unhappy with the killing of Renee Good, that woman who was shot and killed by an ICE agent after officials say that she tried to use her vehicle to possibly run that officer over. So we'll have more on all of this as our live streaming continues, but I did want to let you know what's happening around the country that's not necessarily related to our weather. But don't worry, we are going to get back into the weather headlines when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. My name is Judea Murray again. I thank you guys for making some time to join us and figure out what's happening around you. Weather, for sure, is one of our biggest headlines. A lot of us are trying to figure out how we are going to manage for the next couple of days because our meteorologists are telling us that we have to stay inside. So I wanted to check in on how each area is dealing with all of this. Let's focus on the city of Atlanta, where we find our Angelique Proctor. Angelique, what have you been hearing about how the city is handling this big incident?
Well, good morning to you, Judea. The city of Atlanta says they are ready. We talked with Mayor Andre Dickens, and he said they have done quite a bit of preparing, all kinds of meetings that they've held. And, you know, we are known as the city in a forest, and so there are lots of trees in Atlanta, and we love our trees, but during an ice storm, a lot of those trees could become very dangerous. And so the mayor and really state officials are just trying to avert any real tragedies in this situation. happen. One of the things that Mayor Dickens and his lieutenants have been meeting about is those brine trucks that you see out on the roadways. They are going to be not only treating the roadways, but the sidewalks and even the bridges. The mayor says that they are watching the weather report extremely closely because, as you know, it can in fact change. But he says the city has all of their points on go. They are ready for this storm, and now he is just hoping that residents here in the city of Atlanta do their part.
Yeah, Angelique, this is Judea again. We were listening into this interview I know that the mayor had on Good Day Atlanta. I believe it was just yesterday, where he went into detail about some of the things that he wanted to do. And later on, we'll be able to hear, I think, that full interview. Right now, we don't have that shorter soundbite. But it is interesting, again, to me to see how the different cities are trying to manage this, especially how the mayor, Andre Dickens, has been doing his best to make sure that we're all aware of what's going on, because you know there are still some people who think that our area is not concerned at all with what's going to happen later on tonight. It's wild to believe.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who really have not tuned in yet, and the mayor and many state officials are warning us to please take heed, because it's probably not going to be a whole lot of snow, but it's going to be ice. And the mayor talked about that a lot of the ice is black ice, ice that can't be seen. And so his advice to everyone is really to remain at home. Do not leave your house. And all of this is supposed to start in the Atlanta area about 8 p.m. tonight. So we just hope and trust that people will heed these warnings. Another thing that the mayor talked about is the unhoused here in the Atlanta area. We have warming centers that are open, warming centers that have food, that also have hot showers. So if you know of anybody who is unhoused, please connect them with that resource. Another thing that the mayor talked about is knowing the difference between dialing 911 and 311. Oftentimes people get that mixed up. 911, of course, is an emergency line. It's for medical emergencies, police emergencies, fire emergencies. But the 311 line is more appropriate for a lot of weather-related calls. If you see trees down, or if you know of some mammoth power outage, then 311 would be more appropriate. And the mayor says the best thing you can do, Judea, is stay at home. I've been driving around the city all day this morning. I found out about a 24-hour McDonald's I didn't know about, and I've seen there are a lot of police out in the area. In the downtown area as well as the midtown area, I have seen a lot of officers. So I think the city and the state really are going to be ready for this. It's just up to us to stay at home and kind of watch from inside and not venture out, because we want everybody to be safe.
100%. And Angelique, I do have to say it's great that we have everybody, our hands on deck here at Fox 5 Atlanta, so that you can stay home, because we'll be covering everything for you. You don't have to get out there and see it for yourself. Just sit on your couch, put the feet up, have some of your emergency snacks. And everybody's been heading out to the stores, and you made me laugh about that 24-hour McDonald's. That's the staple right there.
Didn't know about that one. But yeah, I will be the eyes and ears for all the Fox 5 viewers, so stay at home. Let me do it.
Amen. One more thing before you go, because I know a little later on, GEMA is supposed to be having a press conference, and you're going to be one of the reporters, all hands on deck, trying to hear more about updates they have for us. Have they said anything about what they might discuss in this particular news conference, or are we waiting?
Well, we are waiting and watching what GEMA might say. We know that the forecast always tends to change, and if they notice that there's anything that we're doing that we shouldn't be doing, they will put us on point at that time. So we look forward to hearing from state officials, because they have their pulse on the entire state and they know about everything that is going on. So we'll bring that to you live during this stream. So you want to stay with us.
Definitely do, you guys. 11 a.m. p.m. is when we are expecting that news conference to happen. Angelique, thank you so much for doing your part in the city of Atlanta and also keeping us up to date a little later on when that news conference does happen. Well, you guys, again, we're continuing to talk about other things happening around town. These all continuing to have to do with the weather. We talked to you from Hartsfield-Jackson, where it didn't seem that things were too bad. A couple of delays, a few cancellations, nothing that we can't handle, but thousands of flights are being canceled at other airports all around the U.S. I know we have some video for this particular story as we are continuing to keep our eyes on what's happening in other parts of the country. We know that more than 8,000 flights so far that were set to take off over the weekend have been canceled as a major storm is expected to wreak havoc across a lot of our country, including, of course, here in Georgia and Atlanta, where, by the way, thought that we had the world's busiest airport, but a new report is suggesting that Chicago has actually stolen our thunder. I'll check in on that because I couldn't believe it when I saw it, but that is a new headline that's out there. We know that roughly 140 million people are under a winter storm warning. That's for all the way from New Mexico to New England. The National Weather Service is forecasting widespread heavy snow and a band of catastrophic ice stretching from East Texas all the way to North Carolina. Forecasters are expecting the damage, especially in areas pounded by ice, could be as bad as if a bad hurricane came through our country. Now, on Friday night, a lot of people were experiencing freezing rain, sleet, especially in parts of Texas, seeing some stuff in Oklahoma, all sweeping across the south. The storm is expected to move its way into the northeast. I talked to some of my family members in New York. They said that they were getting ready for a little bit of weather. I also talked to my mother out in Memphis, Tennessee. She was saying that they're expecting really low temperatures and potentially some bad weather as well. So we're all just trying to keep up to date. I do want to let you know, though, that the airports seem to be taking the brunt of this. Also want to let you know that we've been talking to you about how dangerous ice is, how powerful it can be. I want to show you this video that actually came from Memphis, Tennessee. If we can pull it up. Look at it there. That was a large tree that had just a tiny sheet of ice on it. Once that water freezes over, you guys, it becomes extremely heavy. These trees become very weakened and then they can fall. And so imagine if there's a car right across the street, but imagine if that car had been parked in the wrong spot, how much damage that would be. Or if rather than the front part of the tree fell, imagine if it was the back half and that it had fallen on that home. That's why people are telling you to stay indoors. Be careful with this ice. Down in Douglas County, one director who deals with emergency response told us that all it takes is a 1/4 inch of ice. That can send a tree down, that can snap a power line, and once that happens, your power's out. How are you going to heat up your food? How are you going to heat up your home? There are a lot of things that play here. And so just want to let you know, ice, of course, weighs more than water, technically has the same mass, but because it's in a different state, we're talking about frozen versus a liquid, it's very difficult to keep your eyes on what's going to happen there. But that's what we know about that. I want to head back out to our Alex Forbes, our meteorologist who's been on standby. Alex, we just talked to the people about how dangerous ice can be, but I want to check back in with you about our forecast and what we might be seeing.
So the ice storm warning in effect for downtown, midtown, metro Atlanta areas north of Atlanta and northeast of Atlanta. I'm going to show you that map here in just a second. First, a live look here at the connector. It is 45 in Atlanta right now. In fact, actually, I want to pull something up real quick. I've got my computer right here so I can do it. It is 45 in Atlanta, but take a look at these numbers now on the north side of the metro. Our temperatures are going to drop through the day today, and as soon as you are below freezing, Dalton, you are not going to come back above freezing. And I'm looking at this, and Canton and Gainesville are running ahead of schedule, which means you're going to be below freezing earlier in the day. So we're going to watch to see how that transpires and affects our forecast now through the day. And here is this ice storm warning. This is for most of North Georgia, basically I-20 and north, with the exception of Haralson County and then the addition of Clayton and Henry counties. This is where I need you to prepare to lose power for a couple of days while temperatures are well below freezing. We are looking for the likelihood of significant ice accumulation between 1/4 of an inch and up to an inch in this darker shade of purple. Overnight, the winter storm watch upgraded to a winter weather advisory. That is where you could see up to 1/10 of an inch of ice. So a glaze to 1/10 of an inch, it's still impactful, but at the end of the day, it's not going to down the trees and power lines like we're looking at up to the north, but a significant ice storm on the way. This is my hand-drawn forecast here. You see more than 1/2 inch of ice in northeast Georgia. Metro Atlanta, particularly the north and east side of Metro Atlanta, still looking at a destructive ice storm. And again, that is not a word I choose lightly. Getting a lot of incoming on that. Well, you look at the pictures Sunday night and tell me that that's not destructive, right? It's not really a question at this point. When you're in the brighter shade of pink here, that's where you're looking at less than 1/4 of an inch, which again, it's an impactful ice storm, but it's not quite the down trees, the power lines, and things of that nature. Now, of course, I'm going to be watching. We're going more from a forecast thing into a nowcast thing. I'm watching what's going on out to the west, and we'll make adjustments as necessary. But I feel pretty confident in this now as we work our way through Sunday night. So, getting a little bit of a tease of some wintry weather in northwest Georgia right now. But the main event overnight tonight, my message to most people in Metro Atlanta is where you are at 5 o'clock is where you need to be for several days. Northeast Georgia, northwest Georgia, by early afternoon, 1, 2 o'clock is where you should probably be just to play it safe. Another thing, the switch over to rain, that's another thing I keep hearing about. My app says it's going to rain after the fact. Okay, great. When it's raining in 37, that's not melting ice quickly. And in fact, if anything, it's actually adding an extra layer of liquid to the ground that's just going to freeze overnight Sunday night. So that's why a lot of school districts are closing for Monday as we look ahead towards next week. So let's take a look at some cities here. I am expecting 4/10 of an inch of ice in Atlanta. A low end event would still be 1/10 of an inch, would still be a glaze. A high end event would be over 1/2 inch. That is in the cards for us in Atlanta. In Gainesville, I'm expecting 1/2 inch. A worst case scenario for Gainesville would be 1 inch of ice. And that is not good. That is like really not good. So that's part of the reason why the messaging is the way that is. Something similar for Athens here. Expecting 1/2 inch, but at its most, I think we could see 7/10. How about Blairsville? At its most, pretty much about the same as Athens, at 7/10, but expecting 1/2 inch. How about LaGrange, right? So this is kind of interesting. Areas down to the south and to the west, the ice forecast is not as bad, but still a glaze. That's what that is in LaGrange. But you still could see 1/10 of an inch of ice in a high-end event. So storm alert days today and tomorrow. Temperatures after the fact, Judea, this is why we really need you to be prepared, because it is going to be very cold, highs in the 30s, lows in the teens there on Tuesday, and it is entirely likely that these gusty winds on Monday continue to take down trees and power lines.
Alex, again, I appreciate you telling us exactly what we need to know. This is really helpful to, even me, who's trying to weather the storm and watch with you guys out there streaming with us. But I know for a fact it's helpful to our audience. So again, we're going to check back in with you in a little bit just to see how things are progressing.
Yep.
Do want to let you guys know out there that pretty soon we have an interview with Sheriff Ashley Henson. I see him on the standby. Sheriff Henson is over Paulding County, and I want to check in a little bit how they are weathering the storm, different preparations that they've got going on. And the reason I want to talk to him is pretty interesting. So we'll have that when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. We've been checking in all morning long with how different parts of Georgia are bracing for this potential devastating ice storm that we may see a little later on. Devastating, destructive, whatever word you want to use. I wanted to check in with a man who is no stranger to being live on the grounds during some of our biggest storms. That is Sheriff Ashley Henson from Paulding County. Sheriff Henson, first of all, thank you for making some time to talk to us.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning, and thanks for having us.
Of course. So one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk to you, like I said, you're no stranger to doing this. Last year, I was covering some big storm here. It was March here at Fox 5 Atlanta. And I want to say it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to write my article. And then I see the sheriff live on the grounds in front of a canopy at a gas station that had just blown off from the grounds and was on the ground. And it was you. You were talking to your constituents about how to stay safe, what was going on so that they could be home and be safe. So with this impending ice storm, what preparations do you guys have going in Paulding County?
So we've been working on this all week, just like most everybody in the affected areas, trying to get our message out, making sure everyone knows, making sure they've gotten the proper supplies and all the things that they need. The biggest thing is about communication, and we try to add a little bit of humor to what we say, because we feel like that gets a little bit more traction. Everybody always says the same things: get batteries and get flashlights and get all the things. And of course, we're going to say those things, but we want to always try to add a little bit of humor to maybe get a little bit more traction so people will actually listen to us.
So let's talk about it. We do always tell people what to do, what to get. Let's talk about what not to do during a storm. Do you have maybe a top 3 things not to do?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is just take heed to the warnings. So for us in Paulding County, we're kind of on the edge of that potential wedge, and so we could, like the meteorologist just said, we could be in 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch to maybe even 1/2 an inch, and so it's really unknown at this time. So the biggest thing that we're encouraging our residents to do is just kind of stay home. And we put some information out yesterday. We did a press release with our other county officials, and we're not saying that it's illegal to leave your house. We're just saying that if you don't have to go anywhere, stay home and enjoy the day, because our deputies are going to be out and about. And so I think one of the biggest things is, if you don't have to go out, please don't get yourself in a situation where you're going to need to be rescued by law enforcement, by our fire personnel. Stay home and enjoy the day. Be smart. If you're having a moment with your family, take a step outside, cool off, literally and figuratively, so we don't have a domestic dispute. Because we know with folks cooped up together, tensions could run high. So, just let cooler heads prevail, literally. And I think those are the biggest things. Just be safe, be smart, and enjoy this couple days off.
I do have to say, I forgot about that domestic little piece aspect there. During the pandemic, we saw that a lot. So that is a very good tip to keep in mind. Just step outside and take a breath. Another question for you. We know Mayor Andre Dickens was telling people here in the city of Atlanta the difference between 911, 311, when to call either one. Would you kind of echo that, or are you encouraging people to use the emergency number if they have something going on?
No, what the mayor said is exactly right. Use 911 in a bona fide emergency. If you need law enforcement, if you need fire, if you need medical assistance, if you see a power line on fire, call 911. If there is a motor vehicle accident and people are injured, certainly call 911. If someone's trying to break in your house, call 911. But if you see, a tree down, we don't have 311 out in Paulding County, but we have our non-emergency number. So the non-emergency number to our dispatch is 770-445-2117. So we would encourage people to call the non-emergency number to report anything that's not of an emergency nature, and reserve those emergency lines for, like we said earlier, bona fide emergencies.
Okay, that's good to know. And of course, we can trust that if there's anything that pops off, you will probably be live with it. Can you talk to us about your social media platforms and where to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, before I became the sheriff, that was one of my jobs was maintaining and being responsible for our social media, and I was our public information officer. So communicating is vitally important in my eyes. Our citizens love it. They know that they can come to @PauldingSheriff on Facebook or Instagram, and they know they're going to get up-to-date, accurate information, and that's what we're encouraging folks to do. We've got a lot of community pages, just like many of the counties out there do. But we want folks to know, come to @PauldingSheriff if you want the most updated and accurate information. We're going to have our deputies taking photos, sending it to our media team, and that way we can post actual photos of actual instances where there's ice or whatever the situation might be. So people see, oh, they're not just really BSing, they're actually out there, they see it, and they understand and know that this is really happening in our county. And so we want those folks to know. And our team will be out there, including myself. We've got deputies that'll be out all night with chainsaws. We've got deputies assigned with inmates who will be out there with chainsaws, and they'll be ready to remove any kind of debris that might be in the roadway. I'll be out there with them tonight. So it's kind of an all hands on deck type deal for us. We're prepared for the worst and hoping for the best. And, I think we're ready on our end. One of the things that we have done is I've reached out to many of our local pastors and spoken with them. And I think for the vast majority, we're going to have, most of our churches are going to have virtual service tomorrow, which is great because I think everyone can agree that Sunday morning is going to be probably the most treacherous when you have the weather that comes in overnight. People are going to try to get out and explore tomorrow morning. And so we really want folks to be encouraged to stay home. And with churches having virtual service, you can just stay home and worship in the comfort of your own home. And so we're excited about that.
Sheriff Henson, I will say that is one of the ways that I know this is so serious. When I saw all of our houses of worship starting to put in their closings, their cancellations, their delays, that is how you know that people are starting to take heed to the things we're saying on the news, what they're hearing from their local officials. And I just appreciate you and thank you for doing what you can to make sure your people in Paulding County are safe as well. I'm sure a lot of them may be streaming with us now and are happy to see you on our air.
Well, thank you guys for having us, and thank you for the kind words. Paulding County is my home. I've lived here my entire life, and it's a special place. And we'll be out there taking care of our citizens. They know they can come to us for the most updated and accurate information. And so, if they need anything, they can call us. And of course, if the media needs anything, you can always call us, and we'll be there for you.
Thank you. It was very easy to reach you. I will say that too. So that's a little consolation for anybody who does have to make that phone call or that text or anything like that. Sheriff Henson, thank you so much for your time. Now, remember, I did tell you guys we are keeping up to date with how people are handling the potential ice across Georgia. So I want to get out to our Ray Llerena, who's driving around in the storm chaser. Ray, what area have you reached and what are you seeing out there on the roads?
So, Judea, right now we are just outside of Lake Lanier near Dahlonega, in between Dahlonega and Gainesville, where we have seen a brine truck from Georgia DOT putting down some brine right now. It looks like he's just pulled over to the side right now. I'm going to switch over to the front camera so you just see where we're at. You can see this brine truck has just pulled over. He's just put over some brine on a couple of the bridges near the Lake Lanier side. We just rolled on that in the storm chaser. But that's just some of what we have seen so far throughout the day as people get their last minute preps right now. And we've driven all across Hall County to get to this point. And I'm going to flip back to our windshield cam just so you guys can see some of the roads right now. You can see that there is still some brine on the road, that dark coloring on the road next to the white lines. You can see it a little closer to the center line. That's kind of dark areas where you can see all this salt brine mixture is being put down by DOT to help keep these roads as safe as possible ahead of this impending ice. Now, this area of northeast Georgia, Judea, is expected to get anywhere between half an inch to about an inch of ice from this winter storm. Alex Forbes has been mentioning that several times throughout the stream so far about just the immense ice that this area is about to get. Now, we spoke with David Autry, who owns an Ace hardware store in Gainesville, where we saw a lot of people coming out with supplies for their homes. And since this morning, he says they have been busy with people trying to get their last minute preparations done, such as refilling propane tanks and buying firewood. He also says he will be sleeping overnight in his store to help serve his neighborhood during the storm. Take a listen to what he said.
Hey, Ray, actually, I don't think that we have that soundbite. Would you be able to kind of tell us what he was saying?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So he was telling us that it works both ways, is what he told me. He says that he knows it may sound corny, and when he does it, when he says he does say it, but he says that his store can't work without his community, and they're there to support them. So they're there for him, and he's going to be there for them. I asked him, just in a follow-up, hey, do you have any sleeping bags? Do you have generators? He goes, oh, we have an air mattress, and they got a generator to the back. He said he and his wife have brought food, couple drinks, just to keep them, hydrated. But they said they are ready to serve them whenever the weather does get bad. And he envisions himself staying that whole day and night in his store, just being ready for whoever shows up. He says he's surrounded by a lot of neighborhoods, and he just wants to be that good neighbor there for them. Judea.
Ray, thank you so much for doing the hard work on the grounds, talking to people, seeing what everybody's got going on, how we're all preparing. Honestly, we're all in this together. It sounds like High School Musical, but it's true at this point in time. We're really relying on our neighbors and their kindness, these store owners, this guy who says that he's going to sleep in his store just to make sure that people still are able to get whatever it is that they need. I appreciate you bringing us this interview, also letting us see what's happening out there on the streets. And real quick, because I realized I didn't know what this was, a brine truck, and the difference between a brine truck and a salt truck. Do you happen to know off the top of your head? Oh, I think our connection is coming out. That's too bad. But brine is kind of a saline mixture, so like salt and water, rather than just putting out that, ground up salt. And my first time seeing one of those trucks was here in Georgia. So I just thought that was interesting, and a piece that I wanted to talk to anybody who may not be from Atlanta, from Georgia, about what's going on. All right, we have now entered our 10 o'clock hour of this stream. Again, my name is Judea Murray. I'm so happy that you guys have made some time to join me on here as we talk to you about how different parts of Georgia are bracing for the impact of this ice storm. Snow is not necessarily the concern. It's going to be sleet, the rain, that freezing rain, and what that's going to do to our roads. So I want to get right out to our meteorologist, Alex Forbes, who's been helping us track all of this all morning long. Alex, what you got going on for us in the 10? Yeah,
Judea, I think there's a really important distinction there to highlight. We're not looking at sleet. This is going to be a straight up freezing rain event. And the difference is, in case you don't know, sleet is an ice pellet that falls from the sky, and it looks like there's Chick-fil-A ice on the ground. That's what it is. It's kind of like hail. Freezing rain lands as liquid water and freezes on contact, and that's what makes it dangerous, is that it clings to things, right? If a sleet pellet hit a power line, it's not going to stick to that power line, but if the water drop hits the power line, it is going to cling to it and freeze. So that's what we're looking at across the area. It's 45 in Atlanta, 40 in Canton right now, 40 in Gainesville. These numbers are going to fall through the day today. They are not going to rise. Worth noting, we're at 28 in Dalton, and look on Fox 5 Live Viper. There are some sprinkles up across far northern Georgia. A couple of those are reaching the ground, and technically that is freezing rain. But this is the winter storm, and this is what's coming later this afternoon. So it's not a hypothetical. This isn't a, well, maybe the winter storm will happen, maybe it will not. Right? It's there. And we are here. And it is going from here to there. There's no missing Atlanta in this scenario. So here's what we've got on the docket now over the next several hours. If you have last-minute preparations, you have about 6 or 7 hours to get them done. I'm saying 5 o'clock is when you need to be wherever you plan on being for the next several days here in Metro Atlanta. So stay off the roads after 5 o'clock. That is the ask of GDOT. That is the ask of your local officials. This is not a going north. This is not going east. This is coming to Metro Atlanta later on this evening, and we are looking at disruptive to crippling ice in Metro Atlanta with numerous power outages and widespread power outages. And in fact, we're going to take a closer look at a forecast here That's going to show you who's in what zones for the next little while. So an ice storm warning for 1/4 of an inch to an inch of ice from Greene, Morgan, Newton, Henry, Clayton, Fulton, Douglas, Paulding, where we just spoke with the sheriff, and Polk counties and points northward. So it's basically I-20 and north plus Clayton and Henry counties included in that. So North Fulton, Forsyth, Gwinnett, Hall, Dawson, Pickens, Cherokee, Bartow, Calhoun, Dalton, Blue Ridge, Blairsville, Hiawassee, everybody up here is in it. If you are in this ice storm warning, I need you to prepare for power outages that can potentially last several days. Not everybody is going to lose their power. A lot of people will, but not everybody. Some people will get their power back pretty quickly, but we need you to prepare for the worst case scenario because there will be people who lose power and don't get it back for several days as temperatures fall well below freezing into the teens and single digits by the time we get to Tuesday morning. Winter weather advisory down to the south. This is the upgrade from the winter storm watch that was in place yesterday. It was changed overnight. This is up for 1/10 of an inch of ice, which again, it's not the end of the world, 1/10 of an inch of ice, but it still is a glaze on roadways, bridges, and on power lines. So it's something we'll be watching, but the threat is not as high down there as it is up to the north. So here is my hand-drawn forecast. This is not a model. This is me looking at more models than I care to admit this morning, looking at what's going on out to the west, which models are handling it the best, but then also factoring in which models handle our cold air damming the best, which is the phenomenon that's going on in the atmosphere. It's when you get this breeze in off the southern Appalachians and it drops temperatures across northern Georgia. So this brighter pink here, this is less than 1/4 inch of ice. That's the territory that, again, it's notable, it's impactful, but it's not necessarily destructive. Once you get inside that yellow dashed line, which includes Metro Atlanta and areas up to the north, this is where we're looking at a significant event. So from Cherokee, North Fulton, North Gwinnett, Dawson, and up across the mountains and into northeast Georgia, this is more than 1/2 inch of ice. That is widespread power outages. That is trees down. All the pine trees here, pine trees are among the weakest. They don't have an extensive root system. Significant impacts. Gainesville, Cumming, Alpharetta, Buford, Dahlonega, Cleveland, Clarksville, Cornelia, Homer, Brazelton, where Mark Teichner is, significant impacts up there. Slide this down to the south a bit. So we'll say from the west side of Cherokee County and Bartow County through Cobb, the city of Atlanta, Fulton and DeKalb counties, southern Gwinnett, Rockdale, Newton, Walton, Athens area, down towards Greensboro and Lexington. This is 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice, which is still impactful. It's not the over 1/2 inch, but 1/4 to 1/2 inch is still a significant ice storm with power outages in many locations. That's why we need you to be prepared for an extended period of time without power. We are seeing a little bit of freezing drizzle in northwest Georgia right now, but the later hours are going to feature the most activity. Likewise, Metro Atlanta and northeast Georgia. The South Metro, it's going to take a while to turn on the freezing rain machine, but it will. And by the end of it, we are going to be looking at some areas switching over to rain, but it's going to be a 38-degree rain, not a 70-degree rain. All right, think about how long ice cubes last in 38-degree water. Quite a while. So it's not going to melt anything. And in fact, if anything, what it's actually going to do is add another layer of liquid on top that will just refreeze as we get into Sunday night. So that's the big story here, Judea. Storm alert days today and tomorrow. Gusty winds will continue to down trees and power lines that have ice on them Monday with wind gusts to 20 to 35 miles an hour. And that is going to make for a number of power outages while lows get down into the teens and 20s. I need you to have a way to stay warm without electricity for potentially several days as numbers drop that low. I also need you to have food on hand that doesn't require electricity and cooking, right? You can still use a grill and things that don't necessarily plug into the wall for the next several days.
Alex, I just had the visual of someone out there in the ice, because it won't be a lot of snow, depending on where you are, but somebody out there in the ice with a grill.
It won't be any snow for us.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
but other parts of the country as well that are preparing for winter weather. But yeah, I had the visual of somebody out there in these freezing temperatures with their grill. But hey, you got to do what you got to do to feed your family.
Right, exactly. And it could be us on the ice with the grill as well, standing out there in 17-degree weather Tuesday morning with a griddle. And one more thing to point out here, right? We're talking about these outside, your grill and all of that. A generator, a lot of people will be using those. Those need to be at least 10 feet away from your house, from your closest entry point, from your windows, things like that. You don't want it sitting next to where you live, because carbon monoxide emissions, they're silent killers. And if any of that gets into your house, that could be trouble.
Alex, I have been learning so much about what to do, what not to do during these storm systems, not just from you, from some of our reporters who've been doing the hard work, and our digital team that's been putting together these great articles online. And if I can point our audience's attention to some of those articles, we have plenty up on how to prepare. You do still have a couple of hours. Alex told you after 5 o'clock really is when we do not want to see anybody out on those roads. It better be safe than sorry. Your life is not worth it, playing around like that. So while we're talking about what's happening across Georgia, I want to head out to the airport, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, where we know they are also undergoing some preparations for this potential ice storm. We know across the country, thousands of flights have been canceled as people are trying to figure out how they're going to get to where their destinations are. I want to check in with our reporter Eli Jordan, who's been out at Atlanta's airport, and how passengers seem to be faring over there.
Hey, good morning, Judea. I am at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. I was just looking at FlightAware. There are 58 delays here at the airport, and flights coming in, 256 flights canceled. Not necessarily from Hartsfield. It's just countrywide across the country. 256 flights canceled, 58 flights delayed. So that's how that's looking right now. And the airport has, got burned a few years ago when some snow hit and they weren't prepared, and a lot of commotion happened here. A lot of people were stranded here. They didn't know what to do, and it was a bad look. And so they invested a lot of money into winter equipment and de-icing and trucks and lots of de-icing chemicals. And assistant manager, general manager of the airport, Christopher Jackman, explains.
We've added some new equipment this year, so we can clear the airfield at a higher rate of speed and return it back to the airlines for their operations a lot sooner than we were able to in the past.
Their priority is to protect the airfield and to maintain continuity and to keep the travelers informed. Now, they're going to keep the airport open, but you need to contact or, at least look at your airliner's website, their social media, and see if your flights are going to be able to make it in or make it out and get to where they're needing to go and all that. But check on the airlines, and but the airport is keeping itself open, but the airlines are responsible for themselves. But I also, spoke to a couple of travelers who are going out to Utah, and they're going to have a fun weekend, but this is what they had to say about the snow or ice. Were you guys concerned about the weather, and why?
Well, I was a little nervous at first, but I kept checking the app, and it kept saying that it only get really bad after like 1, I think, and we take off at 10. Yeah. So I think we'll be okay.
I think it will be fine. I don't know. I feel like sometimes Atlanta overreacts just a little bit, but hopefully everything's okay. I think it'll be fine.
Ever since Snowmageddon, we're all like paranoid.
Yeah, exactly. Just constant paranoia anytime the weather dips.
So were you guys earlier in the week kind of looking at the weather and kind of concerned? Because you guys have a big trip. Tell me about your trip real quick.
Yeah, we're going to Sundance in Utah, so we're going to where there will be like real snow, not ice snow, so that'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. A lot of good movies too.
A lot of good movies. Very excited. We got like 15 movies for watching.
Great lineup.
But I think building up to the week, I work at a grocery store, so I like every day is just people clearing out the shelves. So at first I was a little bit nervous, but then I think it got like, that's why I say I think people are overreacting a little bit, just because I see like the fear in people's faces when they're getting groceries and stuff, and I'm like, it probably won't be that bad. But I don't know, it's wishy-washy, because I feel like maybe there's a chance it might, I don't know.
I mean, if it is icy, I think Atlanta will shut down, but but I don't really think it's going to get that icy.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Two Georgia State students there, film students, going to Utah for the Sundance Film Festival, and I'm kind of jealous about that. They'll have a good time while we're out here covering the ice, the drama of the ice here in Atlanta. So, but that's the scene here at Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. They are open. There's cancellations creeping from the west toward us. So be prepared tonight, and it's going to get a lot more hectic here, probably a lot more cancellations going on over the next 24 hours. Judea?
Eli, we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on it. I'm glad you've also been checking FlightAware to keep us up to date with those numbers. That's really important. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. We're going to keep checking out a couple of different parts of Georgia. Let's head over to Paulding County, actually, where I know we've got our Kim Luffler on the grounds. Kim, walk us through what they're doing out in Paulding County to make sure all the people out there, Calhoun, all the people in Calhoun are doing to stay safe.
Well, we are actually at the GDOT facility here in Calhoun, where it has been a very busy morning. The crews have actually been out since 7 p.m. last night working to get brine on some of the roadways. And if you take a look behind me here, we got one of the brine trucks that's come back in. They're getting more brine and getting ready to go back out there. We had a little bit of rain, some very, very light rain and some sleet that fell here a little bit earlier this morning. So the crews are going back out and kind of retreating any of those roadways, making sure that they are all going to be good to go before we start seeing the freezing rain come in a little later on today. Now, here in Northwest Georgia, they have 110,000 gallons of brine ready to go. They had that on hand well before this system started to make its way here, but they are able to make more. We've seen them making more brine here throughout the morning as well. But we did speak with a GDOT official a little bit earlier today that talked about how they have been preparing for the storm here in Northwest Georgia.
Our crews are going to be out there the entire time, just constantly watching the roads, seeing what's happening, if there's areas that need to be treated again, if they need to be plowed or anything else. We're ready really for every contingency. One thing that's a little bit different this time is we're hearing about the amount of wind gusts that are going to be coming through. So all of our crews have chainsaws. We always think of what's going to happen to the roads, the ice and the snow and things like that. But the truth is, with this type of wind that's coming through and the ice, we can see a lot of downed trees. So our crews are also ready to handle that contingency as well.
And the crews are going to be on the lookout for those downed trees, working to get the roadways cleared as soon as they can. But it really is all hands on deck here throughout the duration of the storm. And really for the last couple of days, GDOT officials have been kind of sounding this alarm, telling people to stay off the roads until the storm moves through, just so that they can make sure all of these brine trucks can get out and get the roadways treated to keep them clear. Ice, of course, is very dangerous for drivers, so they're just asking people to stay off the roadways, again, starting later on tonight until the duration of the storm. And of course, we'll be with you as well, keeping you updated on the latest from Northwest Georgia. Judea.
Kim, thank you so much. Staying out in North Georgia, I want to head a little further east, where we'll find our Mark Teichner, who's also been keeping up with the storm preps and what they're doing out there. Mark, thank you. Welcome back into Fox 5 News Live. You've been covering this all morning long. How are things going at this point in time, and what have you seen so far?
Well, so far it's been pretty quiet, to be honest with you. We're here in downtown Brazelton. We have seen a total of one brine truck come through, and that was really early here on Highway 53. It went one way, and then it turned around and went the opposite direction, dumping brine. This is the main connector, really, from I-85 into Winder, and that's why, obviously, this is a state road and why they were out here treating it. As far as the city of Brazelton is concerned, they have already taken some steps as a result of this particular ice storm. They tell us that they are not going to be opening for business on Monday until noon, hoping that that allows some thawing or something to take place. We'll have to wait and see if that ends up being optimistic that they're able to open at all. As far as the the county is concerned, they have instituted a local emergency and say that they are working closely with their state counterparts to coordinate any efforts in response to whatever ice does come our way. Speaking of ice coming our way, it is expected to come in the evening hours, and as a result of that, that does allow some folks to do some last-minute preparations. We're talking about shopping, picking up anything that they might need to make sure that they are ready in case the power does go out and maybe stay out for a couple of days. Now, one good thing about this particular storm is we've had an awful lot of preparation. We've known about this all week long, which is why folks have been able to go out and shop and do what they need beforehand. But there are some folks who are putting it off until the last minute. We talked with people earlier this week who went shopping at a Walmart, picking up all the items that they would need to make sure their house was ready, and for food and stuff like that. We also talked with a man last night at a Lowe's in Cornelia. He tells us that he was there to pick up a generator. He already had a generator, but he wanted a bigger one.
I'm pretty concerned. Well, I got about 15 gallons of gas, and my truck gassed up, four-wheeler gassed up. Best I can do. I've got another family coming in there with me, and they're going to need heat, electric heaters, and all that.
Okay, so what are some of the things that you want to pick up if you still haven't gone out and gotten yourself ready? Well, non-perishable food as well as water, in case, God forbid, your pipes end up freezing, so you have something to drink. You want to make sure that your prescriptions have all been filled, at least for a couple of days. You want to make sure that you have flashlights and make sure that the batteries in those flashlights are fresh. An emergency kit, and one last thing, make sure you have some gas in the car. Now, the reason for that is if power goes out and it gets bitterly cold, you could go out into the car, possibly warm yourself up, recharge some of your electronic devices. But if your car is in a garage, obviously that is not something you want to do. You want to make sure that you take it outside so that you don't end up in a dangerous carbon monoxide situation. That is the latest from here in Brazelton. I'm Mark Teigner, Fox 5 News.
Mark, again, thank you for keeping us up to date. I'm glad you had that list too of some of the most needed items that you can get. I think it was just about 5 on that list, so not very much, but that is what you should be focusing on, you guys. We're trying to make sure that we can keep you all safe. Now, in addition to our weather headlines, I do also want to make sure we're keeping up to date with what's happening, just around town in general. So let's start with this Lawrenceville shooting, this deadly Lawrenceville shooting, in which we know there were children involved. So here's what we have on this situation. Out in Lawrenceville, a couple of children, 3 were hiding in a closet. One of them brave enough to call 911, and that's how they were able to get help to their home on Brook Ivy Court. This all unwrapping at around 2:30 a.m. just yesterday. So when police got to the home after that call from that child, they found 4 adults dead inside of the home, all of whom had been shot. Now, police say that they were able to work out rather quickly that this was a domestic shooting. And while the names of some of the victims have not been released, investigators did say there were prior calls to that particular address. So let's dig a little deeper. Again, the children were able to keep themselves safe because they hid in a closet. One of them, again, had been brave enough to call for help. K-9 units were able to track the suspect into the woods, where he was promptly arrested and is facing charges. Now, that person has been identified as 51-year-old Vijay Kumar of Atlanta. He's been charged with 4 counts of aggravated assault, 4 counts of felony murder, 4 counts of malice murder, 1 count of cruelty to children in the 1st degree, and 2 counts of cruelty to children in the 3rd degree. We also know that some of the victims, according to Gwinnett County Police, that Kumar's wife, Mimu Dogra, a 53-year-old woman from Atlanta, was one of those victims. Gaurav Kumar, 33 years old, was one of those victims. Neeti Chander, 37 years old, and Harish Chander, 38 years old, all of whom were from Lawrenceville. According to investigators, they believe that this domestic situation was an argument between Dogra and Kumar at their home in Atlanta. They traveled to the residence on Brook Ivy Court with one of their children, a 12-year-old child, and 3 other adults were relatives of Dogra and Kumar, also resided at that Brook Ivy Court home. And somehow during that situation, that argument escalated to gunfire, that man allegedly opening fire on multiple people. And they say the 12-year-old child is the one who got the bravery up to call 911. It's still unknown at this time what that argument was exactly about, but that's what we know about that situation so far. I also want to talk to you about a 2-year-old girl who was taken into ICE custody. We learned about this situation where a judge has said she must be released. This is the little girl you see there on your screen. Police say that she was riding around with her father in Minneapolis. They were stopped, a simple traffic stop, but during that time, the 2 of them were detained, and both of them were ordered to go back to Ecuador. That's where they're originally from. Now, again, that judge says that by Friday, they were supposed to be released Friday night, but as of Saturday morning, I don't have any information just yet that says that that has happened. Attorneys filed an emergency habeas for the release of the toddler and her father, saying that there are asylum claims there, and this was a warrantless arrest. We also know a 5-year-old was detained by ICE in Columbia Heights. That is a separate situation. People are saying that the family of this 5-year-old, quote unquote, came to the U.S. the right way, and yet he was still taken into custody. Now, the judge, again, ordered that this little girl that you see there on your screen be released by 9:30 p.m. yesterday, but we don't have any information that that has happened. We do know that the family's attorney was given parental authority to pick that child up from a detention center and return her to her mother, though. Also want to let you know that there are a lot of anti-ICE protests still raging in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They're experiencing sub-zero temperatures. So while we are also experiencing those cold temperatures, that's not stopping these people from voicing their concerns. They have some concerns with President Donald Trump. They say that he has an increased immigration enforcement across the United States, but especially in their states, and they do not appreciate what is happening. So they've been rallying around. We've seen labor unions, progressive organizations, even faith leaders gathering to protest what's happening across Minneapolis. And so we have some video of that situation for you there. They're demanding that ICE eventually leave Minnesota, hoping that that happens sooner than later. We know that they have been protesting out in Minneapolis since the killing of Renee Good. You may remember this. She was that woman. She was in a car. This video has gone absolutely viral. Some people say that she was trying to use her car to run over an ICE agent who then opened fire, killing her. Again, that killing caught on camera. Then there are some people who say, no, she was trying to turn her wheels. She was driving away from the officer when he escalated things by shooting and killing her. So there hasn't really been much of a consensus about what's happening there and what should happen with that case, but that's what we know so far. Now listen, you guys, we're going to keep talking about the biggest headlines around the United States, but we're also going to keep talking to you guys about what's happening with our weather forecast, because we want to make sure that you are safe. So getting back into this potential ice concern that will ravage the city of Atlanta and multiple parts of Georgia, we'll be meeting out with our meteorologist Alex Forbes when we come back. guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. Let's get right out to our meteorologist, Alex Forbes, who's been keeping us up to date every 30 minutes or so with what we need to know so we can be safe tonight. Alex, I'll let you take it over.
All right, Judea, beginning to see a couple of, we'll say, scattered freezing rain showers, and it's honestly not beginning. It's been a couple hours now, but across parts of northern Georgia, you see some of the pinks there. Got a report at Calhoun earlier of some sleet pellets, also into White County. Notice your temperatures, right? 28 there in Dalton. Meanwhile, it's 40 in Canton, 40 in Gainesville. These numbers are going to be falling through the day as you're looking at really the push of cooler air across metro Atlanta and North Georgia out of the Northeast. So that's where things stand right now as we take a look at the bigger picture here. Whoa, I mean, look at that. Not every day you see this on the map. How about Tennessee, Arkansas, northern Mississippi, back into Texas, snow and ice storm. We are going to be on the ice side of it as it begins to move into metro Atlanta a little later on this evening. So the plan is this. If you have some last minute running around to do and you maybe need to get some food, something to prep for the next 2 or 3 days, stay off metro Atlanta roads after 5. You have until 5 tonight to really be able to clear things up, at least on a planning perspective, before you need to be wherever you plan on staying for the next couple of days. Let's check out this hour by hour. This is our Barron 3K model, and picking this up here at the noon hour. So notice our temperature is continuing to fall, 39 here by the time you get towards noon today. And then 3, 4 o'clock, you start getting some scattered showers in here, but those are going to be liquid. So that's why I'm saying 5 as kind of your cutoff time. So by 6 o'clock, here you go with some of the frozen stuff up across the mountains, and then that quickly spreads into the metro area. And then by the time we get towards 10 tonight, look how far south that is, down into Coweta, Carroll, Pike, Lamar counties. And wherever you see, right, you're looking at liquid precipitation, the greens and the yellows, but a 31-degree temperature. That's this model not picking up on the frozen aspect to this, right? So that would still be freezing rain up across northern Georgia. The problem with this ice storm is how long it lasts. Here we are at the midnight hour, still widespread frozen precipitation, 2 a.m. Getting into the morning hours tomorrow, 5, 6 o'clock. Look at these temperatures, right? You're not teetering at 32. You're well into the mid-20s here in the metro area. And then by the time we get into the mid-morning hours tomorrow, I'm expecting a break from the frozen precipitation falling. Now, into tomorrow afternoon, notice all of our temperatures here are still in the mid-20s, cloud cover, so no sun, no melting, no anything like that. And you're going to see this next band of rain begin to push in. But look, as it does so, the frozen temperatures are still very much in place. And then by the time we get into the later afternoon hours, I mean, look, 33 in Eatonton, 33 in Griffin. That's not doing much melting, even though it's just rain. A 33-degree water temperature against 32-degree ice or even colder ice, yeah, it'll help melt some of it, but not all of it. And in actuality, the problem that we're going to run into is all of this liquid falling, whether it be frozen or not, is just going to refreeze into Sunday night. So there we are, 8, 9 o'clock, and then once we get into the Sunday overnight hours, that's when you get back down below freezing. All right, so we're looking for a disruptive to crippling ice storm for many people across north and central Georgia. This is our ice storm warning, a winter weather advisory down to the south. If you're in the winter weather advisory, still an impactful ice event, but not necessarily the power disruptions and widespread tree damage that we're expecting in this deeper shade of purple. So that's where things stand as of now, 10:30. I know we're going to be hearing from the elected officials and the Georgia Emergency Management Agency coming up here at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. A lot of what they're going to be talking about is prep for the days to follow. We are expecting widespread power outages with temperatures well below average, well below freezing many mornings, particularly there on Tuesday morning. Judea, I think on the north side of the metro and certainly across the North Georgia mountains, we could see overnight low temperatures in the teens and single digits.
Oh my goodness. And to think that if your power does go out, how do you keep yourself warm if you don't have, let's say, a fireplace or a backup generator? We're actually going to be talking to somebody in just a little bit, Alex, about what to do if your power goes out and how our power companies are doing all that they can to make sure we are still serviced during this ice impact that we could all be facing pretty soon. So I thank you so much for your time. Yep. And I think after that press conference, we're going to try to check back in with our Alex Forbes to see what we have learned since GEMA made an update. But in the meantime, I do want to tell you that thousands of flights have been canceled across the U.S. So remember, we were out and about at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport a little earlier this morning. Got some more information for you guys that more than 8,000 flights have been canceled already across the U.S. this weekend. That's because many different states, not just us here in Georgia, are threatened with snow and, for us, ice. And we know that roughly 140 million people are actually under a winter storm warning as we speak. That stretches from New Mexico to New England. We know people from Texas to North Carolina are experiencing this weather that, honestly, some experts, our forecasters, say could rival that of a hurricane. That is a very big deal. So we know that this storm is moving across the country, especially affecting us here in the South. And one of the ways that it could impact us, not just at the airport, but what could happen if ice eventually lands on your trees. So little ice, as we know, could eventually knock your power out. I got some video here that I want to show you guys. It'll re-loop in a second. But you see that tree back there? Keep watching. Ice brought those branches crashing down. And I was saying a little earlier today, imagine that car that just so happened to be parked across the street. Imagine if that person tried to park in front of that home there, or if it wasn't the front of the tree that fell. What if it was the back half ended up falling on that home? We know that ice, all it needs is about a quarter inch of a piece of ice that can weigh down trees, that can weigh down our power lines. And if the power goes out, what do you do? So joining me now, I've got a representative from Jackson EMC. We've been talking to you guys about the different areas across Georgia. We showed you what GDOT was doing. We talked to you guys about what Georgia Power was doing, but we know so many of you live outside of the perimeter, for one. Two, there are a ton of people in Jackson EMC's service coverage area. So I want to bring in Wendy Jones. She's a representative who can talk to what Jackson EMC is doing to make sure that we're safe and that we still have our power. Welcome, Wendy.
Good morning. So yes, we've been watching forecast all week for Winter Storm Fern, and we're always prepared, but actually doing a lot of extra preparation this week because just as you just demonstrated, ice is very heavy, and just a small amount, as you said exactly right just a minute ago, that can really weigh down limbs, it can weigh down trees and power lines. So if we do get that ice, we are expecting outages. It can also make travel and restoration a little more difficult. So our safety of our employees and the public always comes first. So a couple things we've been doing this week to prepare. Obviously, we want to make sure that all of our fleet vehicles and our equipment are in outstanding working order, considering they're going to have to be out on those treacherous roads. Our linemen, our system control operators, and our member service representatives are standing by to help members if outages occur. Now, we have over 450 employees here at Jackson EMC, and we all have a very specific storm role. But in addition to that, we brought in 150 additional crew members last night. They traveled up from South Alabama and Florida. We'll have more joining us today from South Georgia and as far away as Minnesota. So we'll have extra crews to help us with those restorations. Another thing that we like to do is make sure that we have crews, materials, and supplies stationed throughout our service area. So we serve over 274,000 meters across 10 counties. So today, that's 15,500 miles of line that we're going to be monitoring. So having those things pre-staged across our service area really helps us to get to those restorations and begin as quickly as conditions and safety procedures allow.
That is wild. So many different areas impacted, a lot of customers that you guys are trying to keep up with. Talk to me about what happens if, unfortunately, that ice does come down and does impact the power lines, and then you're left without power. What's the first thing a homeowner or renter should do?
Okay, before that, I want to make sure that people understand, again, that those power lines could come down. More than likely, you're going to see a downed line, right? So we want to make sure that you understand that any line that is down could be energized. Assume it's energized, know it can be extremely dangerous, and please stay far away from it and report it as soon as possible. So that's the first thing. We also know that a lot of folks across our service area may be using generators, many for the first time. So please make sure that you're reading those instructions very carefully, because generators can be fantastic, but if they are not hooked up properly, they really can be dangerous not only to the homeowner, but to our line crews, as they can create backfeed into the line. So we have a lot of information at jacksonemc.com/storm on how to operate a generator carefully and properly. There's also additional information on creating an emergency plan, which I hope everybody has done at this point. And then also making sure that you have food, water, and medical supplies for the next few days, just to be careful. And again, that's jacksonemc.com/storm has additional information on that.
Wendy, I'm probably going to have you give us that website again towards the end of the interview, but another question for you. I hate to be a skeptic, hate to be cynical, but let's say the worst does happen and maybe you used your generator the wrong way, or there's a fire, something, you need help. Is there a correct way or wrong way to reach out to Jackson EMC or really any other power company in order to let them know that your service is out or that something has happened?
Yes, of course. Well, first of all, if you have any emergency, make sure you get to 911 immediately if you have generator fires, anything like that happening. But yes, you can definitely use our website, which again is jacksonemc.com, to report an outage. You can use, if you have the mobile app, the My Jackson EMC, you can use that. You can give us a call at 1-800-245-4044. Also, we'll have updates posted on our website. And if you're not already following us on social media, specifically Facebook, please go ahead and do that, because we do put regular updates out there throughout any weather conditions.
Wendy, I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for your time with us here on Fox 5 News Live. I know this is very helpful to our audience because, again, a lot of our viewers actually don't live in the city limits of Atlanta or even the metro Atlanta area. So for us to be able to get out a little further and touch base with a power company that's doing so much for a lot of people in a big part of our coverage area has been pretty incredible. So again, Wendy, I thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, we appreciate everybody's patience, prayers, positive thoughts, and please rest assured that we will be working around the clock to get everybody's power back on.
Appreciate it. You stay safe out there, okay?
Thank you. You too.
All right, so again, you guys, that was Wendy Jones from Jackson EMC. She gave you the website there, some emergency phone lines that you can reach out to in case anything goes wrong in your area. Now, still ahead, talking to you about how different parts of Georgia are preparing for the worst if things with this ice storm really go south. We'll be touching base with how the city of Atlanta is doing things. We'll also be checking in with our Ray Yarena, who's driving around in the storm chaser, but I do believe he's found himself stationary at this point in time. So we'll check in on both of those areas and see what's happening when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. We've been talking to you about how different parts of the state of Georgia are preparing for this major ice event that we are expecting to come our way. This is a winter storm that all of us are keeping our eyes out for because we are under a ice storm warning. Now, Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens actually joined us here at Fox 5 Atlanta for a live virtual interview. And during that time, he talked to us about some of the critical updates of how the city is preparing to keep up with the storm. He emphasized that this was a major ice event and it's far more dangerous than your typical snow. And that's why it's so important. While you may not see snow in your forecast, that does not mean your area is particularly safe. The mayor has requested that all residents stay off the road, especially after what our forecasters are saying. 5 p.m. is probably going to be that point in time where you want to make sure that you are home. I want to let you listen into that interview that our mayor had with our Elise Edie from Good Day Atlanta. Listen into what he had to say about the city of Atlanta.
Take any unnecessary trips because black ice is difficult for you to detect that it's there, and you could be sliding right into danger. So no unnecessary trips tomorrow afternoon through Sunday.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad you mentioned that. And that's the thing about what we're expecting this weekend is that this isn't a snow event. This is an ice event, which is 1,000 times worse, right? And then none of the fun of the snow. So this is something to take very seriously. So we run a lot of stories on Warming Center. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Folks can find that on our website. But give us some insight into just, you know, how the city's preparing. We've, of course, spoken with GDOT. We've heard what they're doing on the highways. But what does this look like as far as making sure that the city is prepared for what's expected?
Yeah, so for the last 2 days, all of government has been, coordinating. We've been on calls. We've been doing tabletop exercises about incidents that could happen, getting prepared, everything from our 21 salt spreaders and 22 brine trucks. So on the roads and sidewalks, we are prepared, but also everything from our watershed management. Of course, ice is, has the chance of freezing pipes. And so we make sure that our watershed management team is prepared to go in there in the incident of any frozen pipes or pipes bursting. We also have provisions that we're making around making sure that our fire stations and our police cars and everything are capable of moving around in the case of an emergency. The world's busiest airport is a department of the city. So how do we manage Hartsfield-Jackson in case of delays and or cancellations? People will be stuck in the airport. How do they eat? How are the bathrooms and facilities being maintained and taken care of? But our most vulnerable people, our senior citizens and our people experiencing homelessness, we are making sure that we check in on them, as well as open warming centers. We have 3 open, with the 4th as an overflow, that are prepared for our guests to make sure that they have food, have safety, have showers and clean amenities for them to be taken care of during this winter weather. So all of the above, and then of course our weekend programming for youth at our recreation centers are canceled so that we can make sure that you're at home safe and off of the roads. But we're doing all we can. And the last thing I'll say is we're making sure that the people are prepared to take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. They should be out there getting water at the grocery store, getting food, making sure you have candles, making sure your batteries are charged so that in the event that power goes out, you have the ability to power your devices.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. We have a checklist of things that we need to be doing to prepare to be able to take care of ourselves. And then the other takeaway from what you were saying, stay off the roads, right? Saturday night on into Sunday. You don't need to, get it done beforehand. It's the big takeaway, right?
Exactly. I know there's some big events and galas and parties and things on Saturday night. And of course, church on Sunday morning, worship services. A lot of pastors are proactively taking the wise decision to tell their parishioners, we're going to be virtual on Sunday morning so that people aren't driving in dangerously trying to get to church service. I think that's a wise decision to go ahead on and call it now and say, hey, especially if you're on the north end of the city on up through the Metro North, you should probably see, that 7 a.m., 9 a.m. service. Yeah. It's going to be still cold and icy. You might want to just, park it for today. And then, everybody will be safe in that way. So everybody just stay home, love on your family, watch some good news stations Nations TV, and we'll get back at all the fun stuff again as this weather clears up. Make sure you know when to call 911 and when to call 311. 911 is for emergencies, medical, fire, or violent crime, etc. 311 is for non-emergency, such as a tree that's fallen or some limbs in the roadway, etc. We will get to all of that in due time.
There we have it. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens spending time with us this morning with a very important message for all of us. So Mayor Dickens, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Good to see you.
All right, so you guys were listening in there again as the mayor of the city of Atlanta prepped everybody on what's happening out there. Now, we thought that at 11 a.m. there was going to be this press conference from GEMA where they would be updating everything that's going on and what we can expect ahead of this destructive ice storm expected to hit us later on tonight. It does look like we have a live camera from that room. I want to bring in that picture and see if we can put the audio up just in case they have gotten started. I don't want you guys to miss anything. I see our governor, Brian Kemp, up there meeting in virtually. Camera crews getting set up.
We have military ready for after storm to handle assessment. We also have static drivers especially on the south end of the state for supply lanes that we support them. And then the other thing that we're really paying attention to is we really anticipate a lot of wildfires in the south.
We're keeping a pulse on this. Even though I do hear some sound, I'm thinking that maybe this meeting has not officially started just yet. I can't imagine that they wouldn't have the sound levels proper for us as we're trying to learn a little bit more. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We have some producers listening in as well who can tell me when this meeting officially begins. But in the meantime, let's get out to our Ray Llerena. He was driving around in the storm chaser a little earlier, showing us how the roads looked. Well, Ray, it looks like you parked the car. Where have you found yourself at this point in the morning?
Well, Jadea, you just said it yourself. We have been driving around in Storm Chaser throughout the day, showing you exactly what the roads look like throughout the day. We saw, if you were with us an hour ago on the stream, we saw that we were behind a brine truck as he was putting down brine on the roads in preparation for this incoming winter weather. But now I want to show you we're at Autry's Ace Hardware. That's right on the edge of the city limits of the city of Gainesville. And take a look at this parking lot. I'm going to have photojournalist Billy Heath show you around. This is how busy it is at 10:45 this morning, right before this winter weather comes in. This has been a constant sort of sight here. You have this man right here in the brown hat right here. He is bringing down propane. He's going to join the line, walking down the line where you can see all those people. Those people are all waiting for propane as we speak. And this company, MJ Propane, they have just brought in another truck to refill that propane tank down there. Now, earlier today, we spoke to the owner of this Ace Hardware, whose name is David Autry, and he says that he is going to be sleeping over inside of his store tonight to make sure that his neighborhood has everything that it needs. He says that this area that he's surrounded in is on the top of a hill, and he just wants to make sure that all of his neighbors have everything that they need. But in speaking with the Gainesville area, this area in Northeast Georgia is expected to get more than half an inch, perhaps maybe up to an inch of ice alone in this area. So very slippery conditions. And we have seen GDOT, as I mentioned before, spraying those roads, making sure they're okay. And this is what David Autry had to tell us earlier today as we spoke to him. Take a listen.
Works both ways, and it sounds corny, and it always does when I say it, but you know, my store can't work without this community, and so we support each other, right? So they're here for me and I'm here for them.
So David, you got some sleeping bags, or you got
we got an air mattress, we got a generator in the back, we brought some food, maybe a couple drinks, you know, but we are all set, and in all seriousness, we'll be ready for anybody that needs us.
So throughout the day, we have seen people buying propane, like you see from the store. It looks like another person's getting their tank filled up. We also seen some people getting some firewood for their wood stoves. They also have some hay trucks over here on the side of this Ace Hardware. We're going to show you over those hay trucks right now. You can see there's 2 semis parked right next to the store, full of hay trucks that people have been loading onto their truck beds. And this is the most common sight that we've seen at this Ace Hardware. And David Autry tells me it's been like this all morning since he opened, and he doesn't think it's going to stop anytime soon, Judea.
Hey, Ray, again, thank you so much for taking the time to show us what's going on out there. And again, just hearing what that Ace Hardware store owner is willing to do for the people in his area is very selfless to me. I say this quote all the time. I'm going to butcher it, so I'll just say it's the quote from Mr. Rogers, where he says, when scary things are happening in the news, his mom said to always look for the helpers. And so obviously he is one of those helpers. Ray, thank you for showing us how Gainesville is prepping their constituents, everybody out there, for this ice storm ahead. Now, still ahead, I want to run through a couple of different ways that you can still be preparing yourself, different ways you can keep yourself safe. We'll have all of that and more when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. Remember, the biggest thing that our city leaders, our county leaders, everyone here in Georgia is telling us to do is to stay off the roads. We know that ice is going to impact your driving, especially later on tonight, all tomorrow, and maybe even into your Monday. So you'd rather be safe than sorry. Gwinnett County especially has put out a local state of emergency. Again, they're asking drivers, really pleading with drivers to stay off the roads. It doesn't matter how big your car, your truck may be. If you've got snow tires, ice does not care about that. You can end up slipping and sliding, maybe even getting into an accident. So again, rather be safe than sorry. We do know that Gwinnett County officials do believe that they were going to start brining all their bridges, all their roads at around 7 a.m. That would continue throughout the weekend, and we're seeing that across different parts of Georgia, as you were able to watch our reporters touching on different areas like Calhoun, Brazelton, the city of Atlanta. Everybody has all hands on deck to make sure that you are safe. I also want to talk to you guys quickly about where you can go if you want to stay warm. We know that there are a couple of warming shelters open across the state of Georgia. We actually have a website full of these areas for you. But again, as we know that it's not just going to be the ice, but dangerously cold temperatures, because how do you get ice? You have to freeze water. So we have freezing temperatures in our area. They want to make sure that people know that different warming shelters are available. We have them set up for you by county on our website, and we did not discriminate. So whether you are in the perimeter or outside the perimeter, we have something for you. Just giving you an example, I'm going to scroll all the way down because I know we've got some things available out in Warner Robins. There's a Haven Hope House on Green Street, Warner Robins. They're taking people. They open nightly at around 6 p.m. They also have some transportation available. We have the website in case you want to go and figure out how you reach out to those who can get you what it is that you need. And then real quick, I want to bring you up to date with our What's Closed website. We do have fox5atlanta.com/closings. Any weather closing that comes through to our newsroom, we put it out on air for you. So you can see there are plenty of schools that are already planning for either a virtual day or no school on Monday. A lot of schools closed yesterday. And then there are a lot of churches that have already been putting in their closure notices for Sunday, tomorrow. A couple of businesses too that have been letting us know that they will not be operating while these dangerous conditions are underway. Now, pretty soon we're going to have that press conference from GEMA in which they'll be able to update us on what's happening in our city. We actually have a live camera out now. We can bump out to that. You guys will have that live for you in just a second, but don't go anywhere.
Good morning. My name is Josh Lamb. I'm the Director of GEMA Homeland Security. I'm joined today by Georgia DOT Commissioner Russell McMurray, DPS Commissioner Colonel Billy Hitchens, DNR Commissioner Walter Raven, Forestry Director Johnny Sabo, General Dwayne Wilson, and State Meteorologist Will Langston. All of them will be speaking to their own individual efforts in a moment. We just finished up a briefing with Governor Kemp to discuss the actions being taken by our partners across the state. Governor Kemp has been leading our response over the past week. He's been in constant contact and will continue to do so throughout the entire event. 2 days ago, Governor Kemp issued a state of emergency order for all 159 counties, which will remain in effect through January 29th. The state of emergency makes all state resources available for local governments and allows for more efficient deployment. State offices in the northern half of the state will be closed on Monday, as shown on the map behind me. The map will also be available on our website. That's all areas above and including Carrollton, Griffin, Sandersville, and Burke County. As of this morning at 7 a.m., the State Operations Center is activated at Level 1 full activation and will operate 24/7 until the winter weather event has passed. GEMA Homeland Security is coordinating with partners at all levels. That's including other state agencies and our utility partners to ensure resources are available where they are needed. Resources such as water, blankets, and MREs have been moved to northern areas of the state. We're working with the Department of Public Health to ensure nursing homes know who to call if they lose power. Our local EMA directors are working with the EPD to identify debris staging areas. GEMA Homeland Security is working in conjunction with the Red Cross and are opening shelters in White, Walker, and Raven counties. The Department of Transportation and Public Safety have response teams on standby on heavily traveled roadways to assist with potential travel issues involving stranded motorists, stalled vehicles, or crashes. Strike teams from the Department of Natural Resources and Forestry Commission are also on standby to respond to requests for road debris clearing, public safety assistance, and other needs. Up to 500 guardsmen are available if needed. Georgia EMC employees and contract crews have been taking proactive measures to prepare for restoration efforts for the past several days. Vehicles have been winterized and emergency equipment has been loaded onto trucks. 10,000 plus personnel, including crews from Florida, are positioning in the areas forecasted to be most heavily impacted. Crews from southern Georgia will also be assisting in power restoration. Coordination efforts will continue as the storm's exact path is determined, and crews from unaffected areas will quickly mobilize to the hardest hit regions. For all the work that GEMA and our state partners are doing to prepare for the winter storm, the best help we can get is for individuals to be prepared and to stay informed. If you haven't already, take the time now to prepare your family and home for the winter weather impacts. Sit down with your family and make a communications plan. Know how you'll contact one another and reconnect if needed. Make sure you have a ready kit with enough non-perishable food, water, and medications for at least 3 days. Ensure you have warm clothing and blankets, flashlights and batteries. Update your first aid kit, and remember, always have a way to charge your phone. If you have pets, make sure they have enough food and water for 3 days and bring them inside with you as much as possible. Take precautions like installing and testing smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, covering outdoor pipes with styrofoam, sealing your doors and windows, and cleaning out your gutters. Think of ways to safely heat your house, especially if the power goes out. Remember to never use an oven to heat your home, and never bring a portable generator inside due to the threat of carbon monoxide poisoning. In case you lose power, Georgia State Parks are opening warming stations for public use beginning today. Park pass fees will be waived for those using warming stations. For locations, dates, and times, please visit georgiastateparks.org/alerts. You can also reach out to your local EMAs for a list of warming stations. Please note that campgrounds at Georgia State Parks are closed in the affected areas. Starting at 6 p.m. this evening, we recommend that you be in place and you plan to stay there for the next 48 hours. We strongly encourage everyone in the warning and advisory areas to stay off the roads tonight, tomorrow, and Monday morning. Not only does staying off the roads ensure your safety, it ensures everybody's safety, and it gives the time and room that our Georgia DOT crews need to maintain the condition of our roadways. If travel is necessary, slow down, allow extra time, and be especially careful on bridges and overpasses as they freeze first. If everyone takes the time now to follow these steps, GEMA and our state partners will be better able to respond to needs as they arise. GEMA Homeland Security will continue to monitor the winter weather and collaborate with local and state officials to assess conditions and determine the best steps to keep Georgians safe. We ask that you follow all guidance from your local officials and continue to monitor your National Weather Service and trusted news sources for the most updated information. GEMA Homeland Security will provide additional information and updates regarding winter weather via our website. That's gema.georgia.gov, where we have a page dedicated to this event. You can also follow us on our social media at Georgia EMA HS for updates. And don't forget to follow our local and state partners as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Murray to talk about the efforts of Georgia DOT, which you can imagine are robust. Commissioner McMurray.
Thank you, Director Lamb. It's a pleasure to provide you an update of our current situation at the Georgia Department of Transportation. This is an all-hands effort. We have nearly 1,800 employees that are now working 12-hour shifts continually until this event is over. We are working our plan currently, which is to pre-treat the interstates starting at I-20 over on the west at Temple, Georgia, all the way to South Carolina at Augusta. We're pre-treating I-85 starting at Noonan, Georgia, all the way to South Carolina. I-75 from Macon all the way to Tennessee, in all of metro Atlanta and everything north of that I-20 boundary, that where the forecasted freezing precipitation and ice is forecasted for. This includes about 18,000 miles of roadways that we have to pre-treat. This takes at least 12 to 14 hours to do this pre-treatment. We started this pre-treatment with brine, which is a salt water solution that helps delay the onset of freezing precipitation to the roadways. At midnight last night, 12:01 a.m. this morning, and we'll complete our first shift at noon. I'm pleased to say that we're on track to hit all our marks such that we will have that first round of brine applied on all those areas that I spoke about today. And our plan is to continuously brine those locations of interstates and critical state routes the entire time of this event. So we will do that after our shift change from noon and continue that all the way through this evening and through tomorrow. Now, as the onset of freezing rain and rain freezing on our roadways and other surfaces begin, we have 300 plow trucks that will be spreading a salt aggregate mix and trying to push anything off the road that may be slushy or trying to freeze. And we'll start that this evening as the onset of the weather comes in. In addition to that, we do have some chainsaw strike teams that are ready to go on Sunday morning, along with our partners at Georgia Forestry Commission and the Department of Natural Resources, to try to deal with any down trees that may happen. Our expectations of this is an ice event. This is not a snow event, this is an ice event. We're going to do what we can to try to keep the ice from sticking to the roads on the interstates and the state route system. Again, state routes, interstates are the high priority state routes. This is going to be a challenge as this weather comes through with freezing rain continually. Again, we'll continue to work, but as this is a long event of a lot of precipitation and freezing, and it's going to be very cold. One of our concerns is what happens into Sunday night, into Monday morning, as it might melt or have rain and then refreeze with these very cold temperatures that are coming forward. Please understand, it takes us 12 to 14 hours to come back to a roadway that may be near you or interstate. So you can't be everywhere at one time. The other expectations we have, again, with this ice event is gusty winds that are forecast into Sunday. which creates a very dangerous situation for everybody, including our workers and anybody out with power that's trying to get limbs or power lines reinstalled. This ice, again, has a real potential for down trees. What we ask of you, limit your travel today so we can get our work done. So far, we've seen traffic volumes down about 30 to 40%, so thank you for staying off the roads. Get to where you need to be through at least Monday at this point, and stay there. If we can get the brine down while there's less traffic, it has a lot better opportunity to absorb into the roadway, which prevents that initial freezing that may take place. We also want to acknowledge that we move a lot slower than you are right now as we're brining and pre-treating roads. So please pay attention and slow down and move over so our crews can at least have a safe opportunity to pre-treat the roads. Again, tonight, tomorrow, stay home, get to where you need to be for a very long time, and just stay weather aware. I want to thank the men and women for GDOT for their commitment and dedication to try to keep our roadways safe and open, but this no doubt will be a challenge Sunday, especially into Monday. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our partner, Colonel Hitchens, the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, provides you an update from their perspective. Colonel.
Thank you, Commissioner McMurray. DPS has been planning our activities for this whole week. What we have come up with and what we're going to deploy, we're bringing extra personnel up into the metro area. So starting about 6 o'clock tonight, you'll see some troopers that are stationed along the interstates within metro area. We'll have about 30 people to work overnight, and they'll be placed in strategic areas, sectors, so they'll be ready to respond to any kind of motorist assist or crashes that occur. We've also brought in 2 south teams that will supplement them for the morning shift. So we'll have about 50 to 60 personnel that will be in those sectors during the daytime. Our northern troops have been put on what we call Phase A, and that is for them to be ready with their cars packed, ready to deploy anywhere throughout the state, but most likely it's going to be in their own troops. And we're waiting for the ice and snow to come in so we know exactly where to place those personnel. The rest of our troops and regions will be on what we call IRT teams, and we have those pre-identified. So once the snow or ice comes in, we can take those teams, deploy them into the areas that need more personnel, and they'll be able to supplement the people where the most damage or most need is. The other thing we've done is identify some drone teams in our aviation is once the storm passes, if we need some recovery photos or some damage assessments, they'll be able to go out and do that. We are also having our Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division. They're working with DOT to help them as they brine the roads, put out the aggregate once the ice and snow start. So we hope that we'll give them a safe environment for them to be able to get their job done. We've also been messaging out with the Georgia Motor Trucking Association to let them know what we're expecting on the roadways coming through metro area, and hopefully trying to reduce that traffic that comes in, commercial motor vehicle traffic, as well as just your regular civilian traffic. And as Commissioner McMurray said, the best thing that y'all can do is have a plan, stay at home, stay off the roadways, let us do our job. I can assure you our folks will be fine if they're bored all weekend just sitting on the interstate because there's nothing to do. That will be a great weekend for us. So please stay home. Make sure that if you do come out, that you have clothing that's appropriate to be out in this weather. They've already mentioned that the weather's going to be extremely cold. If you do run in a ditch, you need to get out of your car. You need to make sure that you're prepared to be out in this cold weather. I want to thank our personnel for stepping up like they always do. They're ready to go, and hopefully, as I said, maybe they'll be bored this weekend, but if not, they're ready to do their job. At this time, I'll introduce the Commissioner from the Department of Natural Resources, Commissioner Walter Raven.
Thank you, Colonel. Good morning. At the direction of Governor Kemp and Director Lamb, DNR is currently operating under a unified command with the Georgia Forestry Commission and the Department of Agriculture. We currently have 17 task force and strike teams ready to deploy when needed. We have 16 warming stations at our Georgia State Parks. As Director Lamb mentioned, if you'll go to gastateparks.org/alerts, you can find the locations to those warming stations. Currently, The Environmental Protection Division has 19 debris staging areas that have been pre-approved for debris to be stationed at, and also has 29 generators and 4 bypass pumps to assist in getting drinking water and wastewater systems back up and running. At this time, I'll turn it over to Georgia Forestry Commission Director Johnny Sabo.
Good morning. Thank you, Walter. As Director Raven mentioned, we're in unified command with Department of Revenue. In unified command with DNR and Department of Ag. Georgia Forestry Commission has 113 personnel solely dedicated to this incident at this time. 10 SAW teams with skid steers, mostly located in Catoosa and Franklin County. Also, we do have some in reserve in Baldwin and Coweta. We also have drivers scattered all over the state for logistical needs and runs as supplies are needed that we can get them in quickly. After the storm passes, we have foresters identified to do rapid timber assessments. Depending on how far south the ice travels, a lot of our species does not do well when frozen. In addition to the ice storm, we fully anticipate wildfires in our southwest corner as this front moves through with the thunderstorms and as dry as we are down there. So we have a contingent of resources in the southwest ready to deploy and fight wildfires as needed. Thank you. General Wilson.
Hey, good morning. Hey, well, our team's certainly been preparing for this event for the last few days. As of the end of today, we'll have about 500 National Guardsmen, soldiers, airmen, and volunteers from our State Defense Force that'll be ready to provide any requirements that may be needed. We're certainly scalable. We're a large organization, so if there's additional capability or capacity that's required once we determine the requirements, and we can certainly do that as well. Some of the first things that we're going to focus on is just assisting our local and our state teammates with power restoration. So we've got a number of chainsaw teams and engineers with heavy equipment that can be moved into the affected area to try to get the roads cleared so that we can get the power teams in and get the power turned back on. We can certainly move any critical supplies around the affected area either by ground or by air. We've got lots of helicopters, so as soon as the weather permits, if we've got to move stuff by air, we can do that. As well. We've got a number of just general purpose soldiers, airmen, and volunteers again from our State Defense Force that are going to be standing by to just provide any support that's required. We certainly stay synced up with our Title X partners and as well as our neighboring states, the military leadership within the neighboring states, just to make sure that if there's any gaps or anything that we come up with that we may need here in the state, that we're going to be postured to ask for it and get it here in a timely manner. Happy to take any questions after we finish up, but that's all I've got for now. I think I'm going to introduce or be followed by Mr. Will Langston.
Thanks, sir. So again, as we've mentioned, we're expecting a very significant ice storm across Georgia, perhaps the biggest ice storm that we've expected in over a decade. On the map behind me, you can see the National Weather Service products. They have issued an ice storm warning for basically all of North Georgia and parts of East Central Georgia as well, down into the Augusta area. So generally, north of the I-20 corridor on the east side of Metro Atlanta, and much of Northwest and West Central Georgia as well, in an ice storm warning. If you're in an ice storm warning, you can expect to see 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of ice or more. As you get further north and east in the state, up the 575 corridor, up 85, even portions toward Athens, and even further east toward South Carolina, you can expect even more ice. We're talking 1/2 inch to 1 inch of ice. Not only is that going to make travel nearly impossible, if not impossible, we're looking at the potential for widespread power outages, and some of those power outages could be prolonged. If crews can't get to those areas, it's just going to take that much longer for power to be restored. So our advice is the onset of this precipitation is going to be this evening, so I would anticipate road conditions to start deteriorating tonight. So please be where you plan to be for the next couple of days at least. by the time the sun goes down, or 6 p.m. tonight, and plan on staying there tonight, tomorrow, and potentially into Monday morning as well. Like I mentioned, widespread power outages, so use today to make final preparations. Think through what you would need or what you would do if the power went out for a day or two. Hopefully, if you do experience power outages, it'll be on the order of a couple of hours, but again, as you move further, the northeast metro area and then further to the north and east, that's where we're looking at the most significant ice accumulations, and that's where we could see those prolonged power outages of even more than a few hours. As mentioned earlier, temperatures are going to be below freezing again on Monday, so even when the freezing precipitation ends on Sunday evening, there's not going to be a lot of time behind the precipitation for temperatures to drop below freezing. So we're looking at a potential refreeze situation on Monday morning, even in areas that don't receive ice accumulations from the freezing rain. So if you're in the ice storm warning area, again, let me reiterate, try to be off the roads by 6 p.m. tonight on Saturday, and plan to stay where you are this evening, tomorrow, and into Monday morning, where we can reassess what fell, what's refrozen, and try and get power back on and the roads clear. Sir?
All right, thank you all. Now, as you've heard from all the agency heads, we'll open it up for a few questions. Yes, sir.
Archit with Maxstar. Can we talk a little bit about what the likelihood of Tuesday is going to be? I know it's early on, but for people, whether it's school, daycare, situations like that into the week ahead, can we walk through the forecast of what that's going to look like? Schools should be closed, businesses should be closed.
Yeah, some of the coldest air that we've seen in a very long time, years, is projected to move in Tuesday morning. So even though it's going to be below freezing Monday morning, an additional surge of cold air is going to move into basically all of north and central Georgia overnight Monday into Tuesday. We're expecting low temperatures in the low to mid-teens. That's air temperature. Wind chill is going to be even lower, and single-digit low temperatures possible in North Georgia. So this is obviously extremely cold, can be dangerous if you're outdoors and unprepared for a prolonged period of time. We will warm up into the 30s to the lower 40s Tuesday afternoon, but then again, we're going to continue dropping below freezing every night with well below average temperatures for the remainder of the week.
Colonel Hitchens, if people ignore the advice to stay off the road, how does that make it harder for first responders if they have to respond to an emergency?
Well, first off, if they're not on the roadway, they're going to crowd the roadway, maybe get in the way of DOT, but it's also going to have our personnel have to drive into a dangerous area as well. We don't have any special talents or things we're trained in driving, but ice is going to be very slippery wherever you go. So it's going to put first responders in danger as well, trying to respond to whatever issues they have.
So you mentioned that traffic is down. What about at your warming stations? Have people already started coming into those?
Currently, the warming station's open at noon today, so we will be tracking those numbers as people start taking us up on our offer for those warming stations.
Director Lamb, if you would just talk about the value of the State Operations Center and how having everyone here in one place, affects the response.
Absolutely. So the great thing about the State Operations Center is it brings all the necessary decision makers and problem solvers together collectively. And I've certainly found over the course of my career that collective reasoning and problem solving is always the way to go. I know individually things are difficult, but together, when we come together, there's almost no problem we can't solve. And that is the benefit and the importance of the SOC.
My question is for Will. For folks who think that they've seen this before, maybe they grew up north, what would you say to them about how the storm is shaping up and how they should take this seriously?
Yeah, ice is a whole different ballgame from snow. We had snow in central Georgia this past weekend, and we didn't have any issues. Ice, you can't do anything with. You can't drive on it. It's much more likely to take out trees and power lines than just regular snow is, just because it's so much heavier. You do not want to drive on ice, any amount. Even if it's a light glaze, sometimes it's difficult to even see on the road. So if you decide to travel tonight and tomorrow, especially when it's dark, it can be very difficult to even see. So just traveling with even a small amount of ice is putting yourself in danger, and in turn causing problems for other people as well. So the best solution is to just not try to drive when there's ice in the area. And anywhere in that ice storm warning, we could see accumulation significant enough to greatly disrupt travel and put people in harm.
And Will, just as a follow-up, I know for some areas like Augusta, when Hurricane Helene hit, some people didn't have power for 2 weeks. We are anticipating the power outages. Do we have any other indication of getting more resources in addition to the 10,000 personnel in case there are more outages in other parts, since that may not be enough for the state? How is that being monitored?
I think we have a 10,000 person crew is a lot. I will mention that this is not just a Georgia issue, this storm. We have basically every state in the southeast other than Florida that's dealing with this. So power companies are going to be throwing everything they have at those issues. I mentioned that northeastern quadrant of the state is where we're looking at the highest odds of those significant, prolonged, damaging, to infrastructure issues. But it could go all the way, like you mentioned, Augusta. We're expecting, a quarter to a half inch down there. So the further north and east you go, the more likely that we would see those prolonged power outages. But they're going to be possible anywhere within that ice storm warning.
Are you still encouraging people in the affected area to stay off the roads tomorrow, even if they're looking at their weather app and seeing above freezing temperatures?
Yes. Great question. Even the precipitation may change back over to rain tomorrow night, so you may see that happen. However, if there's ice accumulated on roadways, it's not going to melt quickly. Temperatures may be above freezing, but not warm enough. Plus, with the sun down, it may not dry up off roads before temperatures fall below freezing tomorrow night. So it's best to just play it safe. Don't test the roads. Even if what you're seeing online, on social media, or on your weather app may indicate that it's safe to drive, it's just not worth taking a risk with this system. This is one of the biggest ice storms that we've seen in quite a while, and it's just not a good idea to test it.
Commissioner McMurray, what roads do you expect could become impassable first? When realistically should people plan to avoid them, and for how long?
So again, with this wedge of cold air that's coming in, and the map behind us really indicates where we would anticipate seeing those sort of worst conditions first, and it's going to be a lot colder in those areas. And so again, we're asking people to stay off the roads today, but for sure, as you've heard from Director Lamb and Will Langston, the meteorologist, is by dark, get to where you need to be. And it's going to just be bitterly cold based on this forecast Sunday into Monday, which again is, and we talk about ice, and as Will Langston just talked about, the spread of the ice based on the warning area. All it takes is one spot of ice, not a covering of an entire road. All you have to do is find the wrong small spot to cause a peril for you and cause risk for you as traveling. So again, we're just asking everybody to get where they need to be today, limit your travel today, and expect to be there at least through Monday, and see where this holds potentially into Tuesday based on these very cold temperatures. Of course, the mountain counties and that cold wedge of air is right around the Appalachian Mountain coming into that area, and that's where obviously we don't expect any thawing to happen until well into Monday or later. So that's, again, that's the problematic areas when the temperature just gets that cold. We'll continue to brine. We'll continue to use salt and aggregate mix to try to break that up. And when the temperatures get around 20 degrees and below, we'll start using calcium chloride to accelerate, which lowers that freezing temperature even lower. So those are all the tools we have in our toolbox. But when you just have a continual amount of rain, freezing rain, and then cold temperatures on the backside, it's going to be a large effort for us to continue to try to keep up.
Director Lamb, you mentioned, I think, the MRUs and the water. What's the quantity that you have of those, and how are you going to distribute them when power starts going out?
Well, that's one of the important reasons we preach being prepared now. You do have to understand that we can get things out as weather conditions permit. So that's one of the reasons we harp so heavily on being prepared. You need to plan now to have 3 days supply ready, because once you get into the storm, you may not be able to get it. So that goes back to why we say it is so important for people to do their part and be prepared, which helps us do what we need to do.
Director, can you also iterate to perhaps businesses that are planning on staying open, the dangers? I know we talked about drivers being off the road, but certain businesses that are still open or may open Sunday or Monday, what's your advice to them as the director of GMA in terms of safety?
Well, I'd say follow our messaging and the information we're putting out now. We're telling everybody it's going to be dangerous to be out on the roads. And we've said many times, and we'll say again, one of the most important things people can do is to heed that advice and stay off the roads, because by doing that, it allows us, one, for them to stay safe. It doesn't impede our DOT personnel that's out there keeping the roadways in conditions. They're not, and one I'd encourage everybody to is, as I said earlier, this is not just about you. Think about everybody else's safety as well. And I know everybody out there doesn't want to harm themselves, but certainly don't want to harm someone else. And I would say for them to consider that when it comes to your point.
Last question, so we can get these gentlemen back to work. No?
Commissioner Steve, I know you had mentioned in the press briefing the risk of potential wildfires in South Georgia, with the lightning that will come in after this storm. What would you say to some of those folks that live in the southern part of our state about, I know we're focusing right now on ice, but the potential for potential wildfires?
No, thank you for that question. Just be careful. The humidities are going to drop. Winds are going to be real high and gusty. It's not the time to be having a warming fire in the backyard, burning yard trash. You know, any spark can cause an unnecessary wildfire. The lightning is going to do that on its own until we receive significant rain. So we just ask to not contribute to that. Humans, unfortunately, are the #1 cause of wildfire, so let's not be a statistic. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, so you guys have been listening into that press conference. I'm glad we were able to get it to you guys live. I'm joined now with our meteorologist, Alex Forbes. We've been taking notes, and I have a feeling we probably will touch on a couple of different things. What's something that stood out to you during that news conference?
Well, several things. One, this is a very large winter storm in Georgia. While we are going to see significant impacts in the grand scheme of things, is a very small puzzle piece to what's going on across the country. So we have power help in the state from Florida. It's one of the few places, Florida is, that is not going to see impacts from this winter storm. Yeah, I mean, you think about help, right? You look to your neighbors, and my first two neighbors that come to mind are Alabama and South Carolina. Well, they're equally at play here, and their power crews need to be in those locations to help them. So we're lucky to have some help from Florida. They have 10,000 people ready to go in terms of power restoration. Of course, before you get to the restoration of power, you are going to lose it first. And another thing that jumped out at me is that the Georgia state parks are going to be opening a number of warming centers at their state parks. And just thinking out loud, in Northeast Georgia, Vogel State Park there in White County is going to be one of those locations. Don Carter State Park in Gainesville, another high impact location as we watch this winter storm begin to come in. And then there's the road aspect. And first and foremost, it's important to note, I mean, I'm saying 5 o'clock, GDOT, or the state's saying 6 o'clock to be off the roads just by sunset, I think is a general good timing there. They have 12-hour crews, kind of like we're going to be doing, and they are treating I-20, the entire state, from Alabama to South Carolina, I-85 from Coweta County to South Carolina, 75 from Macon to Tennessee, and then all of the roads and state routes in Metro Atlanta. It's 18,000 miles worth of treatment that they're doing. And you think about, well, there's not that many roads. You got to consider the number of lanes on all the roads.
Yeah, that is valid, actually.
So, 285, thinking about it, up there in Sandy Springs, it's 7 lanes across, right? So that's 18,000 miles of lanes, if you will, that they're treating. So that's kind of the big things that I got, and it seems like they seem like they're well prepared.
It does seem like they're very well prepared, and I just want to harp on that number that you said, that 10,000 people who are going to be here to help out. Of course, you mentioned Florida. They did say that that is a significant amount of people, but they're also saying that this may be the biggest ice storm that we have seen in a decade. Is that what you're seeing in your research too?
Absolutely. So 2014 was the last big ice storm.
And we all remember that. Yeah.
Well, no, so hold on. The thing in 2014, the snowpocalypse thing, that's separate. That happened 2 weeks before our big ice storm.
Okay, wait. Run me through the ice storm.
End of January was the snowpocalypse. That was the Atlanta making headlines. Everybody got stuck.
On the interstates, you're seeing all the cars pile up. Yeah.
That was just a quick half-inch of snow that iced over relatively quickly. We saw an event like this with no snow middle of February in 2014. That was primarily concentrated in east central Georgia, south of Athens, out toward Augusta, and a little bit of Metro Atlanta got in on the action. In fact, all of Metro Atlanta saw some degree of ice, but the worst of the ice was out away from the city. The change this time around is that more of the metro is in a what we call a destructive amount of ice. And so the impact, I'm thinking, is going to be much bigger from February of 2014.
My goodness. Okay. And also, you touched on the area being so different this time around. I believe they said now it's mostly the northeast part of our state that is going to be directly impacted.
So it's
the worst of it.
Yes, exactly. It's the bullseye is up there in the northeast, and that's something to lose sight of. That it's easy to lose sight of. I think Gainesville, for example, is going to have a much worse ice storm than Metro Atlanta is. But Metro Atlanta is still going to be bad.
Yeah.
Right? And it's having to parse through that is what we're going to be doing over the next couple of days. The other thing I'd highlight out of that, it's similarly, think about a gradient, right? Northeast Georgia into Metro Atlanta. I would expect the northern side of Metro Atlanta to have a greater impact than the southern end. But still an impact on the southern end, right? It's just stair-stepping it down all the way to the Alabama state line.
Long story short, everybody should be aware. Everybody should be keeping up with us here on Fox Local, on the Storm Team app. Also with us on social media, because we're able to get out our biggest updates, quickest updates to you on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm trying to think if there are a couple of other avenues where we can reach you guys out. The Fox Local app. As soon as we hear something, you'll hear it too. Now, Alex, a couple of things that I took aside from it. Of course, we already know from Governor Kemp, which, by the way, somebody asked, where is he? Why didn't we see him? He prepped these teams before they came out and spoke to us live. So he was meeting with them virtually.
We actually saw him on the video call there on the screen.
Yeah, which is actually pretty cool to see kind of how the sauce is made behind the scenes. But we know that the state of emergency is in effect till January 29th.
Yep.
So even though we're expecting to maybe be back up and running by Monday, they said the cold weather is really going to hit us on Tuesday through the rest of the week.
Right.
So we still need to be aware and be prepared.
Well, and we're also going to get into a world where the weather comes to an end, the freezing rain comes to an end, but the cold settles in and people don't have power.
Yeah.
So while something might not be falling from the sky, it's possible that the quote-unquote worst of the storm can be after the fact.
And then I also want to touch on, they said that there would be some National Guardsmen in our area too.
500 of them. And I've seen them do this with Georgia before. They are largely responsible for the cleanup that is inevitably going to happen. So they are moving things, they're moving generators. He said that they have chainsaw teams, heavy equipment, the things that go in and grab the trees and put them in the truck, things like that, to basically supplement all the tree services from across the state.
Got you. And then I feel like I heard this, but I wanted to touch base in case you got it down. Was there something in there about our nursing homes?
Yes.
I did hear a question about daycares, but nursing homes too?
So nursing homes is something I get a lot of questions about because they're particularly vulnerable to ice storms like this. You think about the amount of electricity that's used by the nursing homes for elevators and senior care, right? It's an absolute necessity. It's not a novelty, if you will. And what they said is the state is coordinating with the Department of Public Health so that all of the individual nursing homes and senior care facilities have a hotline to the Department of Health should they lose power, because if they do, they are among the most vulnerable and they are going to be first in line to receive that help from the Department of Health.
I know that there are a couple of people listening now that just had a big sigh of relief knowing that their parents or maybe they're taking care of grandparents will still be able to get that help if needed.
Right.
So that's a big one too. And then last but not least, we talked about how they're saying to stay off the road at 6 p.m. There's going to be an increased Georgia State Patrol, a lot of troopers on the road around that time. So you guys, if you do happen to still be out there, even though they're telling you, and we have been telling you all morning not to, you will be seeing more officers, not necessarily there to arrest you or anything, just making sure that if there are any car crashes, anybody has a stalled vehicle, anybody needs help, that they are out there and able to pitch in.
They're positioning themselves to get to you quickly should you need help, but just don't need help and stay home.
Stay home. Stay home with your snacks. That's what we all should be doing.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you for helping me break this stuff down. I'm hoping that we can get you a replay of this press conference a little later on in our live stream. But until then, don't go anywhere because there's so much more news coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. Getting right out to our Eli Jordan. He's joining us live from the Atlanta airport, where we know a lot of people may still be trying to either get in or get out. But Eli, we have this ice storm pending. How are you seeing things out there?
Right now, everything seems to be quite normal. Flights are coming in and out. Last I checked, I'm going to check FlightAware right now, but, it's not an amazing amount of flights that have been canceled. Let me get rid of this real quick. But people have been coming and going just like normal here. And so for right now, 96 flights have been delayed, and we have 268 flights canceled. So the numbers keep growing and growing. And as this storm is coming across the west towards us, you can see the flights like over in Dallas, Fort Worth, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, even Memphis is starting to get some cancellations. So it's starting to move toward us. You can tell as that moves across, flights are being canceled. But everybody keeps talking about 2014 and that snowstorm and ice. I remember 2011, January 9th, 2011, where people were stranded out on the interstates, along like 15 miles to 285. And here at Hartsfield-Jackson, people chose to sleep here at the airport instead of getting caught out on the roads and stuck, because so many people were stuck out on the roads in 2011 when that hit. And so, but now Hartsfield-Jackson says they're not going to let that happen. They have invested in a bunch of equipment, and the general manager, assistant general manager of the airport, explains.
We've added some new equipment this year, so we can clear the airfield at a higher rate of speed. and return it back to the airlines for their operations a lot sooner than we were able to in the past.
And protecting the airfield and keeping continuity going, and keeping the travelers informed is important. And speaking of travelers, I spoke to two Georgia State students, film students, and they're excited to be getting out of town right when this storm is hitting. Here's what they had to say. Were you guys concerned about the weather, and why?
Well, I was a little nervous at first, but I kept checking the app, and it kept saying that it only get really bad after like 1, I think, and we take off at 10. Yeah. So I think we'll be okay.
I think it will be fine. I don't know. I feel like sometimes Atlanta overreacts just a little bit, but hopefully everything's okay. I think it'll be fine.
Ever since Snowmageddon, we're all like paranoid.
Yeah, exactly. Just constant paranoia anytime the weather dips.
So were you guys like earlier in the week kind of looking at the weather and kind of concerned? Because you guys have a big trip. Tell me about your trip real quick.
Yeah, we're going to Sundance in Utah, so we're going to where there will be like real snow, not ice snow, so that'll be fun.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. A lot of good movies too.
A lot of good movies. Very excited. We got like 15 movies we're watching.
Great lineup.
But I think building up to the week, I work at a grocery store, so I like every day is just people clearing out the shelves. So at first I was a little bit nervous, but then I think it got like, that's why I say I think people are overreacting a little bit, just because I see like the fear in people's faces when they're getting groceries and stuff, and I'm like, it probably won't be that bad. But I don't know, it's wishy-washy, because I feel like maybe there's a chance it might, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, if it is icy, I think Atlanta will shut down, but I don't really think it's going to get that icy.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. And so, we just got a few more hours to go, in less than 24 hours. In the next 24 hours, we'll see if the forecasts, prognostications are correct, or if we dodge a bullet. But either way, I believe Atlanta and the state of Georgia is prepared and ready to do this. I'm ready. I'm ready for some ice, Judea. Ice, baby. Come on. I'm ready. I'm ready for the winter. I'm tired of talking about it. I want to cover it. I want to be out there. I want to get some shots. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want anybody to be inconvenienced. I just, we're talking about it and talking about it. Let's do this. Let's hurry up and do it.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing, Eli. This is supposed to be one of our historic ice storms, so I can understand the excitement there and wanting to get in and covering it for other people out there. I will let you go because I know you do have to do a lot more preparing. It's going to be all hands on deck for all of us for the next couple of days around here at Fox 5 Atlanta.
It's been crazy.
Yes, stay safe, get some rest, and get some beautiful shots for us. All right, you guys, that was Eli Jordan out there at the airport. And remember that our airport's not the only one that's seeing just a little bit of delays, cancellations around the U.S. Actually, airports are seeing thousands of cancellations being affected, their flights being affected by this ice storm that's not just going to hit us here in Georgia, but we know that some of our neighboring southern states are also going to get a little winter storm action in their areas. So we'll be continuing to check in on what's happening. I have more on those flights canceled when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. Before I get into our biggest headlines of the day and what's happening around the country pertaining to these storms, I do want to address some of you guys in our live chats. Shout out to you guys on YouTube. You are very, very active. Scott Rogers said, LOL, who are those people? Referring to our last story with Eli Jordan. He interviewed 2 students who were on their way to Sundance. That's the big film festival that happens in Salt Lake City, Utah. Yes, every single year. And they were really excited to get out there. They didn't believe that the storm was going to be so bad here in Georgia. But I mean, I'm glad you guys are going to be safe out there in Utah. But here in Georgia, we are expecting it to get pretty bad. And remember, I've been telling you about how just a little bit of ice could knock your power out. It could send your power lines down. It could send trees down. So you do need to be very, very careful. And then I'm also looking at some of you guys. El Torres 217 Able, shout out to him who's keeping people safe. Said 4-wheel drive does not work on this type of ice. Stay off the roads. It isn't worth wrecking your vehicle and not getting help in case you get hurt. You'll be stuck where you crash. Don't be a fool. Couldn't have said it better myself. Of course, our law enforcement officials are going to be posted on the interstates in order to help you in case your car does stall, in case there is a crash, in case something happens. But as our meteorologist Alex Forbes said a little while ago, don't let anything happen because you're going to be home, right, guys? You guys are going to be safe. You guys are going to be sound. You guys are going to be warm. If the power does go out, there is a plan in place because our state leaders are doing so much ahead of time to make sure that we are ready for this, that you can be comfortable during this storm. So don't put yourself in harm's way. And I also heard them say on this press conference, actually, it was an interesting quote that I wrote down. There's one at the very end. This is not just about you. This is one of those instances where don't just think about yourself and I really want to go to the store. I really want to go to a friend's house. I know they said that I couldn't get in my car and drive, but I'm just fine. I have this giant truck with large snow tires, 4-wheel drive. I'll be good. All-wheel drive. Whatever it is that you think you have that's going to be the difference. Don't just think about yourself. Think about the other people out there. Think about keeping everyone safe. Again, it's not just about you. So we've got some pictures out there on the roadways where we know that people are trying to make it home before 5 p.m., 6 p.m., when that sun goes down, when we are expecting things to get pretty bad out there in terms of the water, the rain freezing over, turning into ice that could potentially send you flying out there on the roads. They're telling people to stay off of the roads, especially out in Gwinnett County, pleading with their constituents. We also know that there are quite a few warming centers available throughout the state of Georgia. There are a couple of places that you can go to get warm in case you need help, assistance, or you know someone who may. Remember, it is going to get dangerously cold. So we're not just worried about the ice here. We're also worried about the fact that it's going to be below freezing temperatures, maybe even sometimes hitting single digits overnight. So we have an article up on our website available for you. If you live in any of the counties here in Georgia, there are plenty of options for you. Some of them even offering transportation, so you don't have to try to find your way there. You can find a way to contact them and they may be able to pick you up. Also, remember, we've got a page up online of all of the current closings. It is www.fox5atlanta.com/closings. We know schools reached out to us yesterday in order to close ahead of time. A couple of schools have also closed their Sunday extracurricular activities. We know that so many houses of worship are also closing their doors, doing virtual services instead. Those churches making sure that their constituents, the people who come in to serve the Lord, will be able to do so safely from the comforts of their own home. And just real quick, while I have a couple of seconds, I do want to let you know, if you want to submit a closing that still is not on our website, all you got to do is, again, go to that website that you had there, www.fox5atlanta.com/closings, and then you're going to see a link at the very top that says something along the lines of need to register a closing, and then you'll get to this webpage that you see here. So for schools, you'll have to put in your school ID, which would have already been registered with us here at Fox 5 Atlanta. There will be a password that was given to you. You'll use that, and then you can submit a school closing. In addition to that, though, you could also email us here at newstipsatlanta@fox.com. If you are not registered already, we can work something out with our digital team to try to get your information up on our website. So those are the biggest things I wanted to talk to you about. Still ahead in the noon, I'm going to check back out one last time with our meteorologist, Alex Forbes, who's been on standby. We'll check back in with him and how things are going when we come back. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Judea Murray. We are keeping up to date with everything we should know about this incoming ice storm and how destructive it could be to us here in Georgia. Let's get right out to our meteorologist, Alex Forbes. Alex, you've been covering this all morning long. What you got for us?
Yeah, Judea, so here we are at the noon hour. We're getting closer to that cutoff time. We're telling people 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock is when you need to be off the roads and wherever you want to be for the next couple of days. 46 in Atlanta right now, 42 in Canton, 42 in Gainesville. The surge of cooler air is working its way in toward Metro Atlanta and North Georgia. We are mostly dry right now. We have had some reports of some sleet pellets and even some freezing drizzle this morning across parts of northwest Georgia. That has since faded away. But do note that Dalton is below freezing. All right, I don't know how we're missing this one, right? A winter storm on the way. Widespread snow right now across Tennessee, but that becomes ice once you get further south across parts of northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and then certainly into Arkansas and Louisiana. It's this whole system that's sliding towards northern Georgia a little later on this evening. So here it is. 5 o'clock tonight is where you need to be, or is when you need to be wherever you want to be for the next couple of days in Metro Atlanta, as that ice storm warning really takes effect here at the top of the hour at 1 o'clock, but it's going to really make itself known into the evening hours tonight. So here we go, hour by hour into the afternoon. Notice our temperatures drop into the upper 30s by the time we get towards 3 o'clock. So for everybody saying, oh, it's too warm, well, watch this, 6, 7 o'clock. There we go, below freezing here in Atlanta. And not just to the freezing mark, right? You get up above the city, you are well into the 20s at that point. So by 8 o'clock is when we're looking at widespread freezing rain settling in across Metro Atlanta and North Georgia. And this is the type of wintry precipitation that clings to things, right? You get freezing rain falling on the power line and it sticks to the power line and freezes. You get freezing rain on the bridges and it freezes. So it falls as liquid but then freezes on contact at the ground. That's 10 o'clock tonight. On into the overnight hours, this just continues. And look, our temperatures continue to drop. As that rain comes down, it drops the temperatures even more here in the metro area. And as far south as Upson County, Troup, Meriwether, Lamar, over towards Monroe, Jones, Baldwin, Putnam County, counties all in this freezing rain here. And then by the time we get towards 5, 6 o'clock, the steadiest of the freezing rain begins to lift off to the north. Now, I think tomorrow morning during the mid-morning hours, we're going to enter a bit of a lull. But notice all of our temperatures are still below freezing and there's solid cloud cover. That means no melting. All right. Here we go into the morning hours and then into the early afternoon. There's the steady rain kind of lurking off towards the north and west. And as it moves in, look, our temperatures are not above freezing, which means we're going to see another round of freezing rain in Metro Atlanta and north of I-20. South of I-20 and to the west of I-75, it's possible that we get, you see 36, 37, 36, 33. It's possible that we come a couple degrees above freezing. But two things out of that. One, think about an ice cube in a glass of Coke, for example, and a glass of 37-degree Coke. It takes a long time for that ice cube to melt. So while the steadiest of the rain might be coming down at 36 degrees and it's above freezing, that's not necessarily going to melt the ice very quickly. And then on top of it, you get a layer of liquid that's just going to refreeze Sunday night anyway. Right? So even if you did get some melting, there's no evaporation going on because the sun's not out, and then it all just refreezes Sunday night. So here's what we've got. A disruptive to crippling ice storm. I'm looking for numerous power outages in areas that see a quarter to a half inch of ice. I'm going to show you a map here in just a second. And when you're over a half inch of ice, that's when you get into the crippling range. Now, both of these are what we call destructive. And that's not a word that we choose lightly, but is an accurate depiction of what we expect to happen to trees and power lines in the affected areas. So if you are in this ice storm warning, which I'm going to go through all the counties individually here because it's this important. If you are in an ice storm warning, I need you to prepare to be without power for potentially several days. Now, not everybody's going to lose power. Those who do lose power might see it come back on in a day or two, but there will be people without power for an extended period of time. Dade, Walker, Catoosa, Whitfield, Murray, Fannin, Gilmer, Union, Towns, Raven, Chattooga, Floyd, Gordon, Bartow, Cherokee, Pickens, Dawson, Lumpkin, White, Habersham, Hall, Banks, Stevens, Franklin, Hart, Elbert, Madison, Oglethorpe, Jackson, Barrow, Clark, City of Athens, Oconee, down in towards Walton, Morgan, Greene, Rockdale, Newton, Clayton, Henry, Forsyth, Dawson, Cherokee, Paulding, Polk, Cobb, Douglas, DeKalb. I think I got them all in an ice storm warning. I need you to prepare to lose power. If you're in the winter weather advisory down to the south, that's where you could see up to 1/10 of an inch of ice, which is still impactful, but it's not necessarily the destructive type that we have across the area. Now, I looked at more models than I care to admit this morning. Took all of the information from them, factored in what I know about this pattern we have settling up, the cold air damming, and how those models handle the pattern. And this is a hand-drawn forecast by me of what we expect to happen. So this isn't a model. This is me looking at all the models, factoring in what's feasible, what's not feasible, how things typically go, what biases are available, and this is the forecast. Starting off with this brightest shade of pink, this is going to be your lowest amounts, less than 1/4 of an inch. So Dalton, Rome, Carrollton, over towards Griffin, Thomaston, and down towards Milledgeville, still looking for an impactful ice storm, but not quite to the level that we're going to see in Metro Atlanta and in Northeast Georgia. Let's zoom up into Northeast Georgia here. This purple, this is going to be from Clayton through Hiawassee, Blairsville, Dawsonville, coming into the North Metro, Cherokee, Alpharetta, over towards Milton, Johns Creek, Buford, Sugar Hill, the north side of Lawrenceville, Jefferson, and over towards Hartwell. This is more than a half inch of ice. I am expecting widespread power outages and widespread trees down, particularly pine trees in the northeastern part of the state. Now pick it up, say from Ellijay down through Pickens County. That's going to be the western side of Cherokee, Cobb inside the perimeter here, southern Gwinnett, Rockdale, Covington, over towards Monroe, Watkinsville, and then around UGA and Athens over to the South Carolina state line. This is 1/4 to a half inch of ice, which is still a significant impact. It's just that I don't think the power outages are going to be quite as widespread as what's up in the purple shaded area. Still a large number of them, but it's not going to be quite at the scale of what we're seeing up to to the north. So please still plan on and prepare for power outages in those areas. So we saw a tease of some freezing drizzle and sleet earlier this morning in northwest Georgia. They are going to be the first to see the ice a little later on this afternoon. The metro area in northeast Georgia starts shortly after sunset through the overnight and into tomorrow. The south metro, it's going to take a little longer to start. I'm thinking maybe 10 to midnight is when things get underway. And then we do see some spots switch to the rain tomorrow, so just regular rain, but 36 degrees and raining, which is not going to do a ton of melting, and anything that falls and it's sitting on top of the ice is just going to refreeze overnight Sunday into Monday. All right. Talk about a couple of possibilities here just to throw some numbers at you. I'm expecting a 1/4 of an inch of ice, 4/10 of an inch. That's going to be the expectation, right? The forecast. But if we overperform, I think we could get over a 1/2 inch in Atlanta. If we underperform, we still have a 1/10 of an inch of ice coming tonight. In Gainesville, I'm expecting a 1/2 inch, but look at that. Your high end is an inch. How about over in LaGrange? Maybe not so much, right? So that's the type of stuff we're dealing with. So an 80% chance of freezing rain tonight into tomorrow, both days, today and tomorrow, Fox 5 storm alert days. Look at this. We barely get above freezing tomorrow, only to 38. Again, refreeze Monday morning. I'm concerned about Monday afternoon because we will still have a lot of ice around as the wind picks up, and it's entirely possible that you make it through the storm and keep your power, but then that wind picks up on Monday with ice still on trees and power lines, and then you lose power. And then we get down to 15 degrees Tuesday morning. Some spots in the North Metro, and it's certainly across the mountains, likely into the single digits. And then, yeah, it will remain cold through the remainder of the week with highs in the 30s there on Thursday and Friday. So, Judea, that's the lay of the land right now. We have this winter storm. You can't miss it. It's off to the west, and it's making its way towards Georgia.
Alex, I love that you took the time in that one section of your forecast where you went county by county, because again, there are so many people who watch us here on Fox Local, on Fox 5 Atlanta, who don't necessarily live within the metro Atlanta area, and maybe their area may be a little less known to other Georgians. So to get a picture of where exactly the storm is going to hit you, what you can expect in your area, and for you to personalize it, I thought was great. I know our audience is appreciative of that too. Tens of thousands of you guys have been joining us all morning long to make sure you are up to date. So Alex, thank you so much for your time. We know a lot more of our storm team will be here the next couple of days. Remember, I told you it's all hands on deck here, and actually that's what's happening at the state level as well. GEMA held a press conference a little while ago where they were able to update us on everything that we need to know going into this destructive ice storm ahead. I do have a little bit of that interview and that press conference clipped for you guys. Let's listen in together on how we can be safe.
Good morning. My name is Josh Lamb. I'm the Director of GEMA Homeland Security. I'm joined today by Georgia DOT Commissioner Russell McMurray, DPS Commissioner Colonel Billy Hitchens, DNR Commissioner Walter Rabin, Forestry Director Johnny Sabo, General Dwayne Wilson, and State Meteorologist Will Langston. All of them will be speaking to their own individual efforts in a moment. We just finished up a briefing with Governor Kemp to discuss the actions being taken by our partners across the state. Governor Kemp has been leading our response over the past week. He's been in constant contact and will continue to do so throughout the entire event. 2 days ago, Governor Kemp issued a state of emergency order for all 159 counties, which will remain in effect through January 29th. The state of emergency makes all state resources available for local governments and allows for more efficient deployment. State offices in the northern half of the state will be closed on Monday, as shown on the map behind me. The map will also be available on our website. That's all areas above and including Carrollton, Griffin, Sandersville, and Burke County. As of this morning at 7 a.m., the State Operations Center is activated at Level 1 full activation and will operate 24/7 until the winter weather event has passed. GEMA Homeland Security is coordinating with partners at all levels, that's including other state agencies and our utility partners, to ensure resources are available where they are needed. Resources such as water, blankets, and MREs have been moved to northern areas of the state. We're working with the Department of Public Health to ensure nursing homes know who to call if they lose power. Our local EMA directors are working with the EPD to identify debris staging areas. GEMA Homeland Security is working in conjunction with the Red Cross and are opening shelters in White, Walker, and Raven counties. The Department of Transportation and Public Safety have response teams on standby on heavily traveled roadways to assist with potential travel issues involving stranded motorists, stalled vehicles, or crashes. Strike teams from the Department of Natural Resources and Forestry Commission are also on standby to respond to requests for road debris clearing, public safety assistance, and other needs. Up to 500 guardsmen are available if needed. Georgia EMC employees and contract crews have been taking proactive measures to prepare for restoration efforts for the past several days. Vehicles have been winterized and emergency equipment has been loaded onto trucks. 10,000 plus personnel, including crews from Florida, are positioning in the areas forecasted to be most heavily impacted. Crews from southern Georgia will also be assisting in power restoration. Coordination efforts will continue as the storm's exact path is determined, and crews from unaffected areas will quickly mobilize to the hardest hit regions. For all of the work that GEMA and our state partners are doing to prepare for the winter storm, the best help we can get is for individuals to be prepared and to stay informed. If you haven't already, take the time now to prepare your family and home for the winter weather impacts. Sit down with your family and make a communications plan. Know how you'll contact one another and reconnect if needed. Make sure you have a ready kit with enough non-perishable food, water, and medications for at least 3 days. Ensure you have warm clothing and blankets, flashlights and batteries. Update your first aid kit, and remember, always have a way to charge your phone. If you have pets, make sure they have enough food and water for 3 days and bring them inside with you as much as possible. Take precautions like installing and testing smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, covering outdoor pipes with styrofoam, sealing your doors and windows, and cleaning out your gutters. Think of ways to safely heat your house, especially if the power goes out. Remember to never use an oven to heat your home and never bring a portable generator inside due to the threat of carbon monoxide poisoning. In case you lose power, Georgia State Parks are opening warming stations for public use beginning today. Park pass fees will be waived for those using warming stations. For locations, dates, and times, please visit georgiastateparks.org/alerts. You can also reach out to your local EMAs for a list of warming stations. Please note that campgrounds at Georgia State Parks are closed in the affected areas. Starting at 6 p.m. this evening, we recommend that you be in place and you plan to stay there for the next 48 hours. We strongly encourage everyone in the warning and advisory areas to stay off the roads tonight, tomorrow, and Monday morning. Not only does staying off the roads ensure your safety, it ensures everybody's safety, and it gives the time and room that our Georgia DOT crews need to maintain the condition of our roadways. If travel is necessary, slow down, allow extra time, and be especially careful on bridges and overpasses as they freeze first. If everyone takes the time now to follow these steps, GEMA and our state partners will be better able to respond to needs as they arise. GEMA Homeland Security will continue to monitor the winter weather and collaborate with local and state officials to assess conditions and determine the best steps to keep Georgians safe. We ask that you follow all guidance from your local officials and continue to monitor your National Weather Service and trusted news sources for the most updated information. GEMA Homeland Security will provide additional information and updates regarding winter weather via our website, that's gema.georgia.gov, where we have a page dedicated to this event. You can also follow us on our social media at Georgia EMA HS for updates. And don't forget to follow our local and state partners as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Murray to talk about the efforts of Georgia DOT, which you can imagine are robust. Commissioner McMurray.
Thank you, Director Lamb. It's a pleasure to provide you an update of our current situation at the Georgia Department of Transportation. This is an all-hands effort. We have nearly 1,800 employees that are now working 12-hour shifts continually until this event is over. We are working our plan currently, which is to pre-treat the interstate starting at I-20 over on the west at Temple, Georgia, all the way to South Carolina at Augusta, We're pre-treating I-85 starting at Noonan, Georgia, all the way to South Carolina, I-75 from Macon all the way to Tennessee, in all of metro Atlanta and everything north of that I-20 boundary, that where the forecasted freezing precipitation and ice is forecasted for. This includes about 18,000 miles of roadways that we have to pre-treat. This takes at least 12 to 14 hours to do this pre-treatment. We started this pre-treatment with brine, which is a salt water solution that helps delay the onset of freezing precipitation to the roadways at midnight last night, 12:01 a.m. this morning, and we'll complete our first shift at noon. I'm pleased to say that we're on track to hit all our marks such that we will have that first round of brine applied on all those areas that I spoke about today. And our plan is to continuously brine those locations of interstates and critical state routes the entire time of this event. So we will do that after our shift change from noon and continue that all the way through this evening and through tomorrow. Now, as the onset of freezing rain and rain freezing on our roadways and other surfaces begin, we have 300 plow trucks that will be spreading a salt aggregate mix and trying to push anything off the road that may be slushy or trying to freeze. And we'll start that this evening as the onset of the weather comes in. In addition to that, we do have some chainsaw strike teams that are ready to go on Sunday morning, along with our partners at Georgia Forestry Commission and the Department of Natural Resources, to try to deal with any down trees that may happen. Our expectations of this is an ice event. This is not a snow event. This is an ice event. We're going to do what we can to try to keep the ice from sticking to the roads on the interstates and the state route system. Again, state routes, interstates are the high priority state routes. This is going to be a challenge as this weather comes through with freezing rain continually. Again, we'll continually to work, but as this is a long event of a lot of precipitation and freezing, and it's going to be very cold. One of our concerns is what happens into Sunday night, into Monday morning, as it might melt or have rain and then refreeze with these very cold temperatures that are coming forward. Please understand, it takes us 12 to 14 hours to come back to a roadway that may be near you or interstate. So you can't be everywhere at one time. The other expectations we have, again, with this ice event is gusty winds that are forecast into Sunday, which creates a very dangerous situation for everybody, including our workers and anybody out with power that's trying to get limbs or power lines reinstalled. This ice, again, has a real potential for down trees. What we ask of you, limit your travel today so we can get our work done. So far, we've seen traffic volumes down about 30 to 40%, so thank you for staying off the roads. Get to where you need to be through at least Monday at this point and stay there. If we can get the brine down while there's less traffic, it has a lot better opportunity to absorb into the roadway, which prevents that initial freezing that may take place. We also want to acknowledge that we move a lot slower than you are right now as we're brining and pre-treating roads. So please pay attention and slow down and move over so our crews can at least have a safe opportunity to pre-treat the roads. Again, tonight, tomorrow, stay home, get to where you need to be for a very long time, and just stay weather aware. I want to thank the men and women for GDOT for their commitment and dedication to try to keep our roadways safe and open.
So again, you have been listening to that replay there of this press conference that we got not too long ago from GEMA. They were giving us updates on what we can expect here in Georgia as we continue to try to hunker down, stay safe, while this ice storm does move its way through our area. We know that around 5, 6 o'clock tonight, that is when they are asking all drivers to get off of the roads, make it to wherever it is that you're trying to be for the rest of the night and really for the days ahead, because they're expecting that this system is going to put black ice on the roads. It's going to be a very dangerous situation for you to drive in. And so they're just trying to make sure that everybody is safe and everybody is aware. I wanted to address real quick before we move on to some other headlines. I saw in our live chat, this is a question that we keep getting, people wondering more and more about, hold on, let me come back to me real quick. People wondering more and more about the temperatures, because right now I think it's in the 40s. They're like, that's not close enough for freezing. Why are we worried about ice? Well, that's because our low today is 30 degrees, and it only takes 32 degrees Fahrenheit for water to freeze over. So 30 degrees is our low today. I think it's 28 tomorrow, and then we're going to get into the teens and maybe even single digits. That's why we are worried. We're also looking at the fact that, yes, there's a potential for the rain to melt, or the ice to melt, but then refreeze overnight once again when that sun goes down. So, again, you're listening there to what Jima had to tell us. Remember, stay tuned with us on Fox 5 Atlanta and our Fox Local app, where we have more information for you. We'll get back to the local weather news in just a second, but I also want to turn now to Minneapolis. We have a live camera where protesters are coming out in full force. That's because we have learned the third person here in Minneapolis has been shot by federal agents. I don't want to play the sound because there may be sensitive language at that scene, but I can let you know it looks like their reporter is about to do one of his live hits. We can come back to me as I go over the latest details. This is from our sister station out in Minneapolis, the St. Paul area in Minnesota. They began giving us live updates from this big process that has jumped out as we are seeing on the sidelines. So here's what we know. Federal agents fatally shot a man in Minneapolis. We know that people have already been protesting in the thousands because of the killing of a woman named Renee Good. This is the third shooting by federal agents in Minneapolis since Renee was fatally shot on January 7th. So again, protesters, activists, organizers, local officials are all really calling for ICE to leave the state. Any minute now, I think by 12:30, that's when the mayor out there is supposed to address his constituents. If we can actually, now I think we can get back out to some of that video. I think that reporter is done with his hit. So we'll have to update, keep you guys updated. I see some smoke in the area, and actually it does look, well, it's a podium shot. I'm looking over to the side on whether or not that mayor is going to begin speaking. He has a podium shot there, but so let's stick with the scene live that we see rolling out. It looks a little chaotic. Again, I don't want to listen in just in case there's some sensitive language being said, but you see smoke. Now I'm wondering if maybe these are not just flashbangs or tear gas that we're seeing, but I see dark, almost black smoke, which leads me to believe there may be something set on fire in the area. Of course, our crews are staying back because we are trying to stay safe, but it is a crazy scene that is unfolding there. This all happening just this morning. Protesters gathering at the scene of the shooting. We know that chemical irritants are being used. Our sister station has let us know that that is the situation that is out there. I want to make sure we give them a courtesy for this footage because it's coming from Fox 9. And yes, it does look like a dumpster was set on fire at this shooting scene. So that is that dark smoke that we were seeing there. At some point in time, a man was detained during this protest. One of our producers was looking off on the side, and he could see it appeared that maybe protesters were throwing snowballs or really ice balls at some of the federal agents and officers in the area. So again, this has seemingly turned into a violent scene that we are watching live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But I can tell you that that man who was shot by federal agents has now died. Again, the city of Minneapolis is expected to give a media briefing. It's 11:30 their time, and I'm seeing the podium shot, so I'm wondering if that's 12:30 our time. We know that the mayor, police chief, director of emergency management, and a couple of other law enforcement officers will be holding that media briefing to discuss that shooting of that adult male in Minneapolis, knowing that it involved ICE agents. So they're also asking for people to remain calm. I'm not exactly sure how you can as you're trying to piece together what's happening out there, but that is what they're asking for. We also know that a couple of senators, a couple of representatives are asking for ICE to leave Minneapolis, Minnesota. One senator, Amy Klobuchar, actually said on X, I'm going to read her statement to you guys, there has been another shooting involving federal agents in Minneapolis, and I am working to get more information. I will update as soon as possible. To the Trump administration and the Republicans in Congress who have stood silent, get ICE out of our state now. So that's what's happening out there in Minneapolis. Let's turn back to what's happening locally, because at the end of the day, I do want to make sure you guys are up to date with what is happening in our area with the weather, but I did want to touch base out there. We know that they're urging people to stay off of the roads out here. We know county leaders have been issuing an emergency plea, hoping that they're getting through to some of you drivers, not to scare you, but to let you know what's happening. And again, we have more updates available on our website. I'm looking at our time now. I do have to let you guys go. I'm Judea Murray, and I really appreciate you trusting me with your safety and giving you the information that you need to go ahead through your day. Thank you for joining me. If you need more information, you can look us up on Fox Local, the app, or fox5atlanta.com. Our digital team has been putting up all the articles that you need to stay safe, to stay informed, and to just stay in the know. So we'll have more coverage for you, especially coming from our Fox 5 Storm team as the day continues ahead. You guys, stay safe.
Free. That's
Fox 5 Storm Team meteorologist Jonathan Stacy with you here on this Saturday afternoon. Time now is 12:30, and this is a live update on this storm alert day. You can see here that our monster of a storm is already taking over the eastern United States, moving over the Mississippi River right now, over the Mississippi River Delta, mainly anywhere between Jackson, Mississippi and Mississippi, Tennessee. It's freezing rain, and then this wide batch of snow that stretches all the way as far to the west as the Rockies, as far to the north as the Great Lakes, and then across the Tennessee Valley. And some of you across North Georgia have even gotten a sample of some showers this morning in the way of a wintry mix and even some snow showers out there across the area. As we take a look outside, you can see here that things are fairly calm and quiet on the roads, and I only expect them to get even calmer as the day goes on, because as that precipitation moves further to the east, that means that our risk for winter weather impacts, namely that of freezing rain creating icy conditions on the roadways, goes up, and it will go up fairly quickly, especially after the sun goes down. Speaking of sunshine hard to come by today, but the temperature has been on the creep, and that's on the creep upward. Right now we're at 46 degrees, a pretty stout wind coming in out of the east at 13 miles an hour. And as we consider that wind and its direction, that is basically pointing to what is to come. Right now the temperatures are well above freezing, some 14 degrees above freezing here in Atlanta. However, as this wind becomes more northeasterly, and if it's still pumping out speeds at some 13 miles an hour, the temperature is going to fall fairly quickly on the backs of what we call a wedge setting up, first taking taking over northeast Georgia, but then creeping into the metro and for points to the south and to the west. Consistently throughout the morning, Dalton has had a temperature that has hovered around freezing or below freezing, such as the case at this hour at 31 degrees. Meanwhile, just across the way here as you move into northeast Georgia, Blairsville coming in at 41 degrees, 42 in the foothills of Canton, 42 also for Rome. Warmer temperatures as you look down to the south, even as you go out to Lake Country, Eaton coming in at about 50 degrees, almost there at LaGrange at 48 degrees. Now it's almost hard to imagine that these numbers will fall, but they certainly will as we get deeper into the day, especially after the 4 and 5 o'clock time periods. We've been showing you this map for the past few days, trying to pinpoint exactly not only the expanse of the impact of this winter storm, but exactly what areas we'll be watching closely here in North Georgia. So you can see here it stretches all the way across the entire state of Texas. They've been getting their share of wintry weather through the overnight hours, and now it is moving over the Ozarks and into the Mississippi River Delta and up into the Tennessee and Ohio River valleys. But yes, there's going to be impacts to the Carolinas, and as you get closer to the Georgia-South Carolina state line, those impacts will creep into the Peach State. In terms of the area of greatest impacts, that remains the same. I have said this time and time again over the past 48 hours that areas that are to the east of I-75 and to the north of I-20 are most vulnerable. If you were to cut this area in a pie, you would see here areas that are to the east of I-75 and to the north of I-20 are either in the moderate, major, or extreme categories for ice impacts. Now, I think there will be a lesser impact, but still a significant impact between I-85 to the south and I-20 to the north. However, it's notwithstanding that if you are in this zone, even in the orange zone, things are going to get tricky, and they're going to get tricky fast. We'll nonetheless be watching communities closely from Hall County going all the way up to Rabun County and then across the north and north central Georgia mountains as we get deeper into the day. Alex, I think we have some information coming in. Okay, let's turn this around here. We do have a cold weather advisory that has been issued for the majority of our area. You can see here that our South Carolina border counties are not included in this, but this is speaking to what we're going to end up having to deal with after the precip is all said and done. So this is not saying that the ice storm is behind us yet, but this is just new information coming in from the National Weather Service saying that you should expect and anticipate a very steep drop in temperatures. Now, I will say this, I'm glad they went ahead and issued this during this last 6-hour window in which you can make preparations, because if there are power outages on the backs of icing, this is going to be a problem that's going to make your power outage even worse. You're going to be dealing with temperatures across the area, wind chills specifically, that are in the single digits. And this is Monday, 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. I just wanted to let that set with you. As we go through the next 24-hour period, we will be talking about the changeover from rain, or how long that freezing rain is sustained, or is there a changeover to rain once more after the freezing rain is out of here and the temperature rises slightly. But do not think that that uptick in temperatures that we've kind of narrowed in on, which is a possibility for tomorrow midday going into the afternoon hours, as kind of an outright turning of events in terms of the temperature. No, the temperature goes up just a hair Sunday, possibly to raise some areas above freezing, mainly those to the south and to the west of the metro area. But then, as soon as the sun sets, the temperatures take a nosedive, and those winds that were coming out of the north and the east, they will turn northwesterly. And those northwesterly winds are going to pack an extreme cold punch. You add to that, the winds are going to be fairly aggressive. We could have gusts anywhere from 30 to 40 miles an hour, especially in the foothills and the high mountains of North Georgia. Even here in the metro area where we have a lot of friction as a result of buildings, those winds are going to be kicking high. So once again, you kind of got to go back to the basics when it comes to our preparation during this, what could be not only an ice event, but an extremely and downright dangerous cold air event as we get into the second half of it. So kind of think of these things as two phases. Yes, first is about the precipitation and the impacts as a result of icing on the roadways and surfaces, but then the cold air settles in. And I will go as far to say this. Monday is just a sample of what will be extremely cold temperatures by Tuesday morning. We could even see single digits in terms of wind chills inside the perimeter. There are some models suggesting that places in the mountains will have wind chills that are in the negatives. So this is not going to be kind of a short stay or a little dip or a little aberration from, just an average winter day. We're getting in a period of time here after the precip goes that the temperatures are going to take a pretty steep nosedive and they're not going to bounce back quickly. Add to that is that even with a little sunshine popping out Monday, maybe even more sunshine Tuesday. By Tuesday afternoon, I think things have improved, but that's going to help with melting to a degree. But with temperatures not really bouncing back overall, spending a couple minutes above 32 degrees is not going to make a difference. And we're going to find, especially across northeast Georgia, the area that we're watching for icing, I think there's going to be a lot of melting and then refreezing, melting and refreezing. So the threat for black ice not only exists, or ice exists for Sunday, but it also exists for Monday morning and Tuesday morning, and that's because of the reinforcing impact of these cold, very cold, extremely cold temperatures that you'll face that have basically a 2-day stay. But these cold weather alerts speak to information that just came in from the National Weather Service. Alex Forbes still working behind the scenes after working all morning long, pointing this out here, that wind chills will drop down between 10 and 15 degrees. Thank you, Alex, for that. So let's go ahead and work through the timing here of the onset of frozen precip, and that's either frozen as it falls to the ground or frozen once it sets on the ground, that ground temperature getting to or below 38 degrees. So now we've worked you through the latter hours of today. Around 8, 9, 10 o'clock, I think the precipitation that you have, namely freezing rain across the area, it turns from being scattered to widespread. And one of the things that we have really honed in on here in the Fox 5 Storm Center is that this event was fairly peculiar, and not only the timing that it would come through, that the batch of moisture would come through during the coldest part of the day, but the reasonable length of time that we were working with. I know we've pushed back the time some because the system slowed down. That said, with it being through the overnight hours, it's still lasting. Most of us will be asleep during this time, but it's still lasting some 6 to 8 hours. And so as we stop here on Sunday morning at 1 o'clock, look at this. Everybody's covered up with freezing rain, and this continues to be the case not only through the 1 o'clock hours, but you can see here that even into the late morning period, you still have bouts with freezing rain. And then once the moisture gets out of here, maybe there's a last lobe of energy that comes through that's more liquid, both as it falls and as it sits on the ground. But then temperatures, as the precipitation moves out, they take a steep downturn and nosedive. That said, here's a look at our latest timing. Metro Atlanta, I would say after sunset, Alex Forbes is giving you the warning, 5 o'clock, be inside, be where you plan to be and where you are comfortable with being all the way until Monday morning at the very least. A changeover in the end by Sunday midday to rain. I think it's going to be an all-out freezing rain event for northeast Georgia. That's where our sights have been set on. Northwest, you've already got some flurries this morning, more of a wintry mix out there. However, there's more to come, and that will come in the way of freezing rain and then some rain drifting in as we close the day Sunday. South Metro, you're in the better position here to not have the greatest impacts, but you're still not in the clear by any measure. It's just going to be all determined by how far to the south and to the west does the cold air extend. We're watching the temperatures and we're watching the precip, and we're covering everything that you need to know and the potential impacts to you, your family, and your neighborhoods throughout the entire day until this is all said and done. I'm Fox 5 Storm Team Meteorologist Jonathan Stacy. We'll be back with more updates at the top of the hour.
Fires and literally saving lives.
So I see that you brought this in, and this is a result of an electrical malfunction.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's all about prevention, right? I mean, so you think about it. I mean, Ting is the most innovative product for fire safety since the smoke detector. I mean, the smoke detector is always required, doesn't replace that. But a smoke detector only tells you that you have a fire after it started. Ting detects the problem before it starts. So our objective and what we do every day is prevent the fire.
Ting not only prevents fires, but it also monitors power outages, yeah?
Yeah, so part of, when you have Ting in your home, you get a notification instantaneously. If power is out, you have a power surge, even if you're not home, right? So, the network of Ting, when you have Ting in your home, we have 1 million Ting sensors, you become part of the network, and we monitor the utility grid, right? So when you've got severe weather, as you all deal with every time, it is so critical that we inform communities and we provide data to first responders and police and fire so that they know which communities have power so that they can, you get to the recovery.
Unbelievable. This is something everybody that owns a home needs or rents an apartment or what have you. Bob Marshall, co-founder and CEO of Whisker Labs, thank you so much for being here. To learn more about how to help protect your home, visit tingfire.com or scan the QR code on your screen to help keep your family and your home safe.
Debt-free.
And welcome back. Great to see everybody. This is our Winter Storm HQ, continuing coverage of this monster winter storm that is about 2,000 miles long at this point. Anywhere from New Mexico all the way up to down East Maine, you're going to get slammed with heavy snow. If you're not getting snow, you're getting sleet. If you're not getting sleet, you're getting freezing rain. If you're not getting freezing rain, you're getting severe thunderstorms. We've got everything open up right now. It looks like it's going to be rough. We've got all our reporters, meteorologists, shotgun across the nation. Heck, I've even got my daughter working for me at Ole Miss right now, spraying the pictures, showing you the freezing rain. It's happening in northern Mississippi. You think we got you covered? We do. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Let me bring in Nick and Jane. And you guys, I want to set the scene where I'm located right now. We've got a solid deck of cloud over us at this point. We're wedged in. The winds are out of the east at about 15 miles per hour, so that's a cold, dry air mass Now we've got the energy ejecting out of the four corners, tapping into the Pacific, the Gulf of America, and all that rain is headed towards us, where it's going to be freezing on the surface. So we got the ice storm warnings from Atlanta through Greenville and to Spartanburg and Charlotte as well. But right now, hasn't started yet in Atlanta. I'm 20 miles north of downtown Atlanta. It's a typical Saturday in Roswell, Georgia. Looks great. Canton Street open for business. Tomorrow at this time, though, totally different story.
Absolutely. And, you know, those temperatures right now in Atlanta in the mid-40s, but that cold air damming, it's going to really settle in at the base of the Appalachians, and that's why we have those ice storm warnings in effect on the I-20 corridor, I-85. I mean, you talk about a busy interstate, Atlanta to Charlotte. Nick, you know this well. I mean, this is going to be quite dangerous, not just for the conditions, but traveling is going to be near impossible.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, anytime that you start talking about winter weather in this part of the country, you'll hope for snow, but a lot of times, unfortunately, ice or sleet or freezing rain ends up becoming what happens eventually, as this cold air damming has certainly shifted a lot of forecasts for many meteorologists for decades. Bob, you worked in Charlotte. You know all about that. Back in actually 2002 in Charlotte, there was a huge ice storm. That was in early December, though, when the trees had their leaves on them, and so there was more surface area for that ice to accrete on. And so I think with that storm, they had about a half of an inch of ice total. We could maybe see more than that in some spots here. Now, we don't have the leaves on the trees, which I don't think will matter if we get more than a half of an inch, but many folks in the South remember that event, and this is one of those things where we could see a storm similar, if not maybe outperform something like that, which I'm not throwing out there for no reason, right? That's something to keep in mind as you look ahead to tonight and tomorrow. And hopefully the folks that are behind you on the road are using this time wisely to continue to prepare before things start to go downhill.
Yeah, Nick, we got the dog walkers that are out here all morning long, and the temperatures are still in the mid-40s, but yeah, the wind feels a little bit colder, so I had to put on the hat and the gloves because we've been out here for the entire morning. Yeah. But I tell you, you're right. It's business as usual right now, like we said, but everybody knows what's coming, and the ice storm warnings there for a reason. They start at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Now, we're not going to get the real rough stuff until probably, we're going after dark tonight in Atlanta, where we start seeing temperatures dip below freezing. But the good news, I can tell you this, though, you guys, Nick and Jane, the temperatures have been in the 50s for the last couple of days, so the street temperatures are still above freezing. It will take some time to get the street temperatures to be below freezing, but once that happens, that ice is really going to start piling up right there. Not the same for the trees. I mean, as soon as it starts falling, it freezes on contact, and we see more than a half an inch of ice on these trees. You start adding all that extra weight plus winds at about 20 miles per hour. These limbs come down. So I said to my wife and everybody else around me, it's been coming up to me, be prepared to lose your power around a couple hours after midnight tonight, and it probably won't be back for at least a couple of days, depending on where you're located.
Yeah, and you know what's been impressive is watching the snow side of this. I mean, you take a look at the cameras we have out of Cookeville, Tennessee, Nashville International Airport. I mean, this snow has settled up. You talk about ground temperatures. I mean, look how quickly it's piled up on the roads. And this is the type of snow that can be difficult to get out there and do some treating. We've already seen accidents start to happen. This is a look right now on I-24 in Nashville, Tennessee. And you can see, obviously, the road traffic, but this is one vehicle. Look at this entire lane that cars are driving on right now. That is just caked in snow. The more those drivers are on that, the icier it becomes.
Keep in mind, what you're looking at is an interstate. So that's about as good as road conditions are going to get in terms of the potential for clearing. You get on some of those back streets, and of course, those get less traffic and less just overall use. So there's going to likely be even more difficult conditions off the interstate. And at a certain point, guys, you can only brine so much. At a certain point, this storm is going to overwhelm however much brine is down. And when that happens, that's when things really start to deteriorate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is going to continue to unfold over the course of the next several hours. Atlanta, those temperatures will come crashing overnight, and that's when that freezing rain sets up. So we're eyeing up this storm, of course, very closely. Want to head to Arkansas, where extreme cold warnings are in effect. We have wind chills as low as 10 to 20 below zero. The National Weather Service warning, of course, the high risk of hypothermia and frostbite. On top of that, you have snow-covered roads. We have the risk of icing, especially across the southern tier of the state. Joining us now is Ashley Lunningham. She's a public information officer for Arkansas Emergency Management. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, of course.
So how's your team been preparing ahead of this historic event? I mean, Arkansas has seen ice and snow before, but of this magnitude for this duration, it's quite challenging.
Yes, absolutely. We started coordination calls with our state and local partners on Tuesday of this week, and we've continued to do that every single day. And as we were briefed out by the National Weather Service, and when they forecasted that there would be the potential of freezing rain and a significant amount down in the southern portion of Arkansas. That's when we started to coordinate with our state and local partners to get resources together to go ahead and prepare as much as we possibly could. So that's really the key. We've prepared. The National Guard is out with Arkansas State Police. They are around. They've already helped a few people who have been stranded on the roadways. RDOT, started pre-treating those roads. Of course, they always do before that winter storm. And of course, with the possibility of power outages, we started an interactive map from our local jurisdictions. They send in warming shelters, and we've gotten several across the state that are open currently. And all Arkansans can go on our website and look at our citizens portal to see that. So it's really about the preparation. And now, we're just here. We've activated the State Emergency Operations Center. We're here if the state needs us.
Talk to me more about activating the State Emergency Operations Center. What does that mean for Arkansans? I mean, all hands on deck, of course, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we activate the State Emergency Operations Center, we go from a level 3 to a level 1, which is full activation. We'll be here from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., full staff, and pretty much taking calls from our state and local partners that are out there right now, seeing what, seeing everything that that Arkansans need. And we're there to kind of coordinate if they need any resources to find things for them. If that is the case. So we're here for them if they need us, and we'll just wait it out with them.
And actually, we're looking at some of the DOT cameras, of course, the roads themselves. I mean, they're already caked in snow. Talk about the challenge it is when you talk about the entire state of Arkansas, the northern tier of this, and really right up to the I-30, I-40 interchange. We've had snow. And then this transition to icing that we know is going to take us through really the end of this weekend. How do you approach that as a team and then getting that message out to people across the entire state?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Arkansas Department of Transportation has done a fantastic job already pre-treating those roads. And they're out there right now trying to clear those roads off. And, it's a good thing that it happened on the weekend because, if you don't have to get out, and that's what we've been telling people, if you don't have to get out, then stay at home as much as you possibly can. Because, when you mix ice into all of this on the roadways, it gets extremely dangerous. And so we just, we encourage people, we've been telling people to just stay home if you can.
Absolutely. Well, Ashley, we appreciate your time here on Fox Weather. Real quick, how many folks are out in Arkansas right now with the DOT and with emergency management operations? I mean, are we talking thousands of crews?
Yes, I don't know the exact number, but there are several crews that have been brought in. I know that there was a photo that I saw on Facebook. There were several linemen in the parking lot around Little Rock, and it was just a great thing to see because they've brought several people in to prepare for this event.
Absolutely. Everybody is here, all hands on deck to make sure safety is top of mind. That's Arkansas Emergency Management Officer with the PIO officer. Thank you, Ashley Lunningham, for joining us here on Fox Weather.
Thank you.
Here on Fox Weather, we have all angles of this massive storm covered, here from the first flake all the way through cleanup. Stay with us 24/7 on your phone, your connected TV, and online. Watch us on any device or provider. If the power goes out, we are here. Go to foxweather.com, foxweather.tv to find out how.